right, guys, another episode, another time. Now, today, it's a special one. Before we get right straight into it, we've got our sponsors, Amigos.
Best burgers in town. Belly's full after the last one.
For real? You know what I mean? So,
For real.
thank you, Amigos, for sponsoring this episode. Today's episode is really special. We've got a special guest. I know we say that about all the guests, but this one is extra special. You know, this is a human being that's actually dedicated himself into football, I would say. I mean, everyone do say they love coaching or they love developing players. But today we have Saul right in front of us. Let's give him a round of applause. I will let Mr. Saul do that because I'm of this belief, right? Sometimes it's always great to introduce your guest and all of that. It takes away from the guest. I want the guests to big themselves up. Do you know what I mean? I like it. I love watching guests big themselves up. It makes me like, he's achieved a lot. So we're going to go right straight into it. But before we do, Saul, tell us about yourself.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be here. It's a great podcast. I've been a coaching for 22 years. I spent over 10 years in academies at Chelsea and Tottenham, and just some work at Arsenal as well, consultancy work at Arsenal, many other clubs. And I've been an individual coaching specialist for that time, really. So worked with a lot of pros individually, aspiring academy players, grassroots players as well. And now do a lot of consultancy work with academies around the world to support them with their individual technical program, really individual focus, really. And I also got an app called My Personal Football Coach, which is like an online training portal. So like in a whirlwind, that's pretty much my coaching life story.
Wow. Guys, you see, I would have never been able... This is what I'm saying.
Full circle, man.
Just full circle,
Wow.
and everything just makes sense. Obviously, It makes sense to the fact that from everything I know, I don't know him personally, but professionally, everything just makes sense. Yeah. And I want us to get into it really quickly. That way we just, get to know Saul properly. So what first pulled you into into coaching youth football?
Well, I think coaching specific. I mean, I went at university. I was captain of the team, the first team captain, and I was sort of playing, coaching. And I didn't really know what I was doing. It was, just organising really. And after university, I thought, what do I want to do for myself? And I didn't really. And I ended up going to America to do the camps. And I ended up spending 18 months of 2 9-month contracts just doing coaching there. And I really went there with like a blank slate. I'd never really coached properly. And then I came back with the idea thinking, look, I love that, but I can't really do coaching as a full-time profession. I started teaching, a primary school teacher, got a job part-time at Tottenham in the academy or foundation, worked my way into the academy and then sort of transitioned into full-time coaching there basically. So in answer to your question, I mean, I always enjoyed education, working with young players, working with children, in any sort of environment. But I mean, football was always my passion. It was always my dream to work in football. And I never really thought actually it was possible to do that full time, but fortunately, then I managed to sort of carve myself, a career and a niche in this very, populated market into what I do.
Oh, that's pretty much interesting. Like,
So what was your first coaching role at Tottenham?
I didn't know. My first role was in America. So like I said, I went out to America and I spent 9 months. I went out originally I was going to do 6 months and come do my teacher training. I ended up just knocking the teacher training on the head for a year and staying out there for 2 years basically. Okay. And I say that to everybody, that time on the grass every day, like 3 to 4, 5, 6 hours every single day, coaching, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 to 18-year-olds was unbelievable. So when I come back from America, and I went. I had an interview at Spurs in the foundation, and I'd put a session on it. It's just easy for me because I've been doing it because I had so much grass time, and then so that was it was invaluable to me. And then that the position at Tottenham in the foundation was my first job in England coaching. Yeah,
gotcha.
And it's interesting because the questions I have written down, like I did say from the start, I promise you, my second question was, what's your defining moment at Tottenham?
Defining moment?
Yeah.
I don't know. I always say, listen, when I first started coaching, excuse me, when I first started coaching and I came back to England, academy football was a million miles away from me. I was just like, wow, it was like the panacea, if you like. So, that's to get there. But I thought, I'm never going to get there. I never played professional. For me, I thought it was an impossible dream. Okay. But then I had an opportunity in the development centres. I impressed. I was very lucky at the time, or fortunate, because it was right place, right time. John McDermott had taken over with Chris Ramsey. They were looking for coaches who could train technically, ball mastery 1v1. That's what I did. I was a technical coach. That's what I learned. Yeah. So then that accelerated my progression. But I say, really working under Chris Ramsey a lot. Danny Buck, who I say is one of the best coaches I've ever seen. That was pivotal because that taught me how to you know, it's one thing being a coach, you know, it's another thing working with elite players and developing elite players, and they taught me how to do that, and that was really pivotal to me. That changed my projection as a coach. Also, I thought about this the other day. You know, my two coaching mentors, my first ones, Keith Bowanas, who was my FA coaching mentor. I did my level 2, level 3 or UEFA B, you know, and my level 2 and UEFA B, and then also Tim Bradbury, who I learned from in America. They were really important in my career. I wouldn't be where I am now, and because they gave me the basis of how to coach the basics, you know what I mean, and coaching my coaching methodology. So I say to everybody, I think it's really important having those mentors, those influences, and you know, having those and they really help, like I say, guide me and support me into my trajectory into the sort of coach I am today.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I love the fact that you've emphasized on everyone that's contributed to your growth as a human being, aside from you just being a coach, just with you understanding football, even because you didn't play at a professional level, that didn't matter, and you just took whatever you learned from whatever they taught you or whatever you saw. That leads me to my second question. Then I read I don't know if this is true though, but I read somewhere, obviously when I was doing my research, I read that you left the academy system behind, sort of.
Yeah.
And the reason?
Yeah, no, well, I'd done 6 years at Spurs, and then I got a job opportunity at Chelsea. And like I say, at the time, that was always my ambition, because, you know, particularly at that time, Chelsea were the biggest players on the block, and you'd go to Cobham and it'd be like, wow.
Yeah.
Compared to any academy, they were top. So I was very lucky, you know, I was fortunate to get the opportunity there with Mickey Beale. Spent 4.5 years there, but then I got to the point I'd already started my app business, my personal football coach.
Okay.
Had a very successful one-on-one
Whilst you
coaching
was
business.
doing academy coaching.
Yeah, while I was doing academy coaching, I had PDA football, my individual coaching business, and I had academy football. And what I found, I said to my line manager, Paul Waldron, who's still one of the best people I've worked with in football, you know, I was struggling to do any of them properly, really, because even if you're working part-time in academy football as head of nines, you know, it's a big commitment, and I wasn't really doing any of them correctly. I wasn't really doing anything to the full potential, I think. So I had to give, and at the time I thought, did I want to work full-time in academy football? I recognise I'd prefer to work for myself, and because I had this belief in my personal football coach, and I thought there was a gap, and there still is a gap in terms of individual emphasis in coaching and training, and there was nothing out. I thought, you know, that is my calling, so I had to step away, and it was a really difficult decision. And I had another mentor of mine. We talked about it. He said, you know, don't worry about it. You know, once you're good, you're always good. You've got 10 years behind you. You've got Chelsea, Tottenham. No one can take that away from you. So it was one of the biggest. Talk about pivotal moments. That's one of the biggest pivotal moments in my career, because to step away, people thought I was crazy stepping away from Chelsea.
Yeah, it's like the golden ball now, isn't it?
Exactly.
Chelsea,
but I knew, for me, you know, it was an amazing club, top academy, one of the best in the world. Yeah. For me, I was pulled towards my own individual ambitions, my entrepreneurial spirit, and my belief in what my personal football coach, basically.
Yeah. So just going back to Tottenham, how did you transition from the foundation to the academy?
Yeah, so again,
like that process.
Yeah, so again, it was also like right place, right time. John McDermott, very astute.
Because any young coaches listening now, a lot of guys want to get into academy coaching, and you've done a fantastic job. You went from learning the basics of the grassroots, worked into the foundation or development centers, which a lot of guys do. But the hard step is actually getting into the academies. Exactly. Like, how did you do that?
Yeah, and also, like I said, I thought I was a million miles away from that. So I was fortunate at the time. Like I said, John recognised that basically, you know, the Tottenham Foundation, or the community scheme as it was at the time, had hundreds of coaches. Yeah. So they realised, a bit like what they've done at Chelsea now, many clubs, they try to integrate those guys into the academy system. So what happened was the development centre, a lot more development centres opened up, and they took some of us guys into those development centres, and then that's us. We're then in the shop window, if you like. So we're working with the best sevens, the eights, and you know those days, that sort of thing. And then you're in academy, then you asked to cover nines, you asked to cover the eights, elite, you know, the top elites 8 session, and that's how I got my opportunity. Basically, like I said, it was like there wasn't that many people apart from Bucky who could do the technical individual coaching, and then I was almost off that same sort of conveyor belt, if you like, the same sort of methodology. So they saw that I had something they needed, they wanted, and then so they accelerated my trajectory into that. So yeah.
Good. What year was that when you started doing the academy at Tottenham?
So probably 2000, about 2000, probably 2005, 2006 or something like that.
Yeah.
I think just as they took over.
Yeah, and as a coach, the thing is, not just even as a coach, as a human being, and even better as a coach, people do have an obsession with a certain type of problem they like to solve. What was it for you as a coach? Because just listening to what you said earlier about you made the transition, and even when Sammy asked, there must be something in you that's like an obsession of a sort of problem you like to solve as a coach. And what was that? Really?
Yeah, I think, like I say to everybody, I think I see the game a little bit differently through a lens, and that's, you know, as someone growing up, you know, I was obsessed with, you know, technical footballers. I loved watching Ajax. That was one of my favourite teams. You know, I used to go to Arsenal, used to go to Tottenham. My friends in North London, you know, and go to Arsenal, you know, more. I watched because I loved watching Bergkamp, Littmanen, Cliver, Davids, all those guys, and I was obsessed with that sort of technical game. And I even though I can remember growing up watching, like, remember Peter Beardsley and even like wide players and having, you know, flashbacks of thinking how they beat players and how they move. So that was very much my game. I grew up in, you know, inner city London, playground player. That's a football. That was the sort of football that I really excited me, basically. So then that was my thing in terms of like, can we? And also remember, you know, 22 years ago, this was a time we didn't really have that many technical players, and we were going through a bit of a hard time as a nation itself. And I remember, you know, playing games against big academies, and they used to just stick it in the mixer, stick it in the channels, under nines. You know, what I mean, smash and grab, crash, bang, wallop. Yeah. So we've come a long way, but at the time, that was, you talk about my obsession. The problem, that was right. You know, there's got to be a better way to coach young players to be technical footballers. You know, and so then focus on ball mastery, ball manipulation, and then 1v1 domination. And you can see then that's where you get really interesting outcomes, I think.
So working from 2005 to now, would you say that the philosophy within them ages has really changed within the country?
Yeah, massively, because there's a lot more technical emphasis. But I think now, it depends what you look at it. It's interesting because now I think, you know, if you look at, you know, the coach education program, it's interesting. We've gone too far the other way, where it's now it's all game based. Yeah. And there's almost zero technical content for coaches if you're going on a coaching license, if you're going through the conventional coach license. Now, the coaching licenses are really good, and I say to them they're not good, but I think there's a gap there. Yeah. In terms of supporting coaches to teach, to help support players to be a bit more skillful, a bit more flamboyant on the ball, a bit more finesse, you know, a bit more those finer things in terms of we do, where it's a lot more just it's more of a guided discovery, or even just step back, let them do it sort of thing. So I think, you know, we've come a long way, and most of the improvement's been driven by the academies in terms of, you know, like I say, you know, there's much more technical emphasis, and that's so it's been driven by the quality in the academies and the EPPP. But I think there's still that gap in terms of, you know, if you're a young coach developing now, you know, where are you going to understand how to, even basics like how to teach players how to pass the ball properly? You're not going to get that in your level 1, level 2, whatever you're doing.
And that's an easy transition for me. Actually, you're making it really easy. My questions and what you're saying.
He's a natural, huh?
Yeah, that's perfect. I'm looking at the notes. I'm going, wait, was this spy? Was he hacking my phone or something? I mean, that because you've just made mention of something. So for me, it's like, why is ball mastery the starting point always for you?
Yeah, because I think it's like any basic. It's like it's a foundation of technique, isn't it? Yeah. You know, can I control the ball? You know, can I release the ball? You know, can I receive the ball? You know, so to start those basic things. So, you know, if you teach players how to manipulate, and also what you find is that when players become more comfortable on the ball and they become better, the mastery improves. That guides them to make high level decisions
100%.
And better players. You can see it, and this is the problem we're having. You know, we have this weird sort of back and forth argument. People say, no, well, you know, it's touches for touch's sake, or no, everything should be in a game, and you're just letting players play, but it's all chaotic. But you realise, you know, you're not saying, listen, I think there's got to be a balance, and that's the problem. Right?
Absolutely.
I think the misconception people have of me is they think I do everything in unopposed. If I'm working in a team session, of course the majority is going to be game-based stuff, but that individual ball work's so key in supporting players, and you see players become better. And listen, some players develop those assets, you know, independently, but some players don't. And if you're in an elite environment, every player has to have that. And even in a grassroots environment, your players will get better if you support them in terms of being able to stop the ball, change direction of the ball, move the ball, and, you know, release it in different ways.
Yeah, because I've heard or I've seen something about master the ball. I think that's something you believe in, and it just makes sense to what you're saying because you believe in the basics.
Yeah, I mean, my you know, one of my taglines is master the ball, master the game, isn't it? Master the ball, master the game. That's, you know, it's a basic principle, but that's what you do. You can see it, you know. And I'm, you know, my 22 years plus coaching now. I've worked with the very beginners to, you know, working with some of the best players in the world, and I see it. And every player, you know, can, benefit from spending some time on the ball and looking at how their relationship with the ball. Obviously, with the top players, it looks different to what you're doing with the beginner, but it's the same principle. How you're going to move with the ball, how you're going to break lines with the ball, really, how you're going to play with the ball forward, whether it's a shot, pass, or a cross, all those sorts of things. So that time's invaluable for anybody.
Yeah, in context to what you said about top players, which of these top players that you've coached or you've worked with could you look back at now and go, wow, there's such a massive difference between that and a beginner? Because some kids, any kid watching now is thinking, can I become a top player one day? I mean, because you've done both, like you said, you've seen beginner to top world-class players. So what was that massive? What's the gap like outside for people like,
listen, the level's very high, and people probably don't realise how high the level is. It's the most competitive market in the world, So the level's very high in terms of seeing players looking. When I always use Max Aarons is a great story. When I started working with Max, who's now on loan at Rangers from Bournemouth. We started working with him when he was 14. He didn't have a club. He'd left Luton for 2 years. He didn't have a club. Okay. No club. He went to Chelsea, Tottenham, QPR. Couldn't get signed. 2 years, and 2 years at a club. All he did was intense training. Yeah. Proper three times a week, homework, and then he went from no club for 2 years to getting a scholar at Norwich and being then on the golden boy list in 3 years. Wow. So what I'm saying is that that's every journey's different, but what can happen? Players can go from that to that in a tight period. Now it's very difficult. Every player's journey's different, and then you got your outliers like Noni, who I work with, who's has always been like a top talent, and he's just getting better and better and better now. But obviously his thing is his mentality. No one works hard. He's the hardest working player I've ever come across. Do you know what I mean? So everyone's different. Everyone's in a different, has a different profile. Yeah. Is a different time. But there's all these guys are putting in.
How would you tailor make a session for example, Max at right back and Noni as a winger?
Yeah, so my process is the same. So look, it's about, for me, it's looking at, for example, a fullback. Yeah. So so what's going to help him get a contract? What's going to help him get signed? What's going to help him get a contract? What's going to help him get signed? For me, it's about breaking the game down into the microcosmic examples. All right. So as a fullback, a lot of time, for example, is going to be judged on what he does in the final third. Gotcha. Can he break lines?
So you'll tailor make your sessions
completely. So I try and think about what break down the game changing moments. So as a fullback is about getting on the ball. Can I break the line first? So it might be running beyond, might be a combination to get beyond. Yeah. Ideally, can I with the ball break the line? Yeah. 1v1. That's what we work a lot on. Get into those areas, and then obviously maybe with the player on the side, and then obviously then end product, 4 passes, crosses, and shots. That's what you're going to be judged on. Obviously, then you work on in terms of the out of possession stuff as well. But the modern game, so break down that, and then we work on those key things over and over again. Because when it comes in a game, boom, it's he doesn't even see. So I watched Max the other night. He played in the Champions League, did a weak foot Cruyff from the byline when his faced his own goal, came out, drove, and that we must have practiced that millions of times. The weak foot, just so he doesn't have to think about it. So that's what you do. You break it down and into the position. Then you work on those things.
That's a lot of technical advice that you're telling them as well. How much is it you giving them information because you've got a lot of knowledge about football?
Yeah, listen, it's always like a two-way process. But like I said, it depends. Coaching's like that. Coaching's not like you got to do this, you do that. We talk about scaffold learnings. Where you as a coach, you understand when to go in, when to go out. Definitely. Like I said, with the top players, you just create a practice, make it a bit challenging, and they help solve the problems. And you might step in, tweak it. But obviously, these are some of the best players in the world. They know a lot more than I do anyway. So it's about how can I challenge them, and I offer I say, look, think about this in terms of this in this situation. This is some other possibilities. These are some other solutions taken from the top level. Yeah. Try these, that sort of thing. Yeah, gotcha. So you have to be, the key thing is that, and what players they say about my sessions, that they see the game in the session.
Definitely.
You do.
That's really key. So key.
Massively, and that's what I'm a big, I also, I have a bit of banter about individual coaches when they're using ladders and hoops and stuff like that. Yeah. But I say, look, what is your purpose of doing that? If you're a conditioning coach, fair enough, you do that, right? If you say you're a technical coach, fair enough. If you want to work with quick feet, do it with the ball. Make it functional. Do it with relationship. You can get the same and better outcomes, I believe, with the ball. Definitely. Doing that, then doing those with those movements. Now, everyone can do what they want to do, but that's key for me. You want to try and link it as close to the game as possible. And ironically, that goes back to the FA courses where they say make it game realistic, contextual interference possible. But that's the same thing. You want to try and link it so players think, right, that's the game. So when I get in the game, I recognise this, or subconsciously they don't even think about it. They're into that situation.
So what makes what's it called, one-to-ones so personal for you?
Well, it's completely like the very nature, isn't it? You're building a relationship with a player. You got to, like I said, you've got to have the personality where they, they're open up to you. They trust you. You can say, this is going to make you a better player, because if they're not giving it 100% and they're not really into it, then it's not really worth it. You've got to do it. So it's about, understanding the player, getting to know them, understanding what they need, and then trying to challenge them to get that bit extra out of them.
Man, the thing about football in this day and age, it's very polarizing, especially for the grassroots football. I mean, because parents are paying for it, so I guess they have the bigger say, I would say. So, they would decide if they want their kids to stay on in a club or even play. And I guess with what you're doing, it's not the same. Do you know what I mean? You're pretty much in control, I would say. You can say, you know what, I don't want to work with this player for any reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Saul's a busy guy.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying.
I tried to tell him, Saul, I've got a guy wants to do it one-to-one with you. Like, I can't fit him in. So that's what happens when you're the best in the business, huh? I guess.
Well, that's it, yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, how has failure helped, refine the way you approach training?
Yeah, I mean, like anything, it's trial and error, building relationships, try things that don't work, maybe pushing boundaries, push them too much.
True.
Like saying, you see, unfortunately, I do now. I can, pick and choose who I work with. And a lot of players, I get so many calls every day when we work with my son or a daughter, and I say, okay, give me a background. And most of the time I say, look, I don't think this is worth, your time or your money. Go and work with another coach. You can work for the same coach 4 or 5 times a week. Don't do it. Obviously, some people insist, but obviously, it's for me, it's saying, look, why do you want to come and work with me? What can I offer? Can I really make a change? Can I really add value to this person? And then that's understanding, look, where's it coming from? Does the player really want to work? Is it coming more from the parent, or is it like one of the pro players coming more from the agent? So I want players who are going to bring 100% to the session and give it up to me, so I can say, right, let's go and let's do something really really important.
Sammy, I thought you were going to say something.
No.
Oh, sorry. I thought you looked at it. I thought you was going to say something. No, it's just that's actually a very good response, because I feel we have too many one-to-one trainers. I mean, when you go on the internet, oh my God, you just scroll through the algorithm and you just see someone moving a ball, someone doing this. And when was the pivotal moment for you to go, you know what, it's time to take this on social media as well? Because as much as...
And go full-time with it. Because you are the pioneer.
Yeah.
If I'm being honest, though, I'm not just saying this because you're next to us.
Yeah.
Like, I've watched a lot of your content before we spoke. And I'm not just saying this, you are probably the best one-to-one coach out there at the moment, all over the world.
I'm probably I'm probably one of the most, probably the first person to establish it and make it my speciality. So I say, when I came back from America, I started PDA football and actually started doing camps. And I thought, this is a bit of a nightmare. It's a bit of a saturated market. This is like 20 odd years ago. Yeah. And I was doing the individual stuff. So I just fell into that niche straight away. I liked it. I had some success in terms of getting players signed quickly, in terms of getting signed for my individual, how I coached. But in terms of it's difficult because, social media sort of crept up on us all a little bit. Well, me, I was talking about 22 years ago. So started with, Twitter and a bit of and Instagram. Instagram I was probably a bit late to even. But, I was fortunate because at university I did communication studies, which is like media, film and stuff. So I was like duck to water. I could do that. I could originally used to make my own stuff, my own films and stuff like that. So I was very fortunate in terms of that. I could do that, and I understand how that works and how to, what looks good and stuff like that. But I mean, it's still the bane of my life, the content and stuff like that. Is because daily, I say to everyone, I get a lot of coaches who message me, say, I'm just starting up, so any advice? The hardest thing is now, it's like say every man and his dog is a one-to-one coach. It's a saturated market. Post-COVID, that was it. Post-COVID, it just went crazy.
Literally.
Which is fifth. But listen, there's still a lot of young guys coming through and they're doing really well and they're building great businesses. So you can still do it. What's good is the market's getting bigger.
100%.
Because even like you guys must see, there's so many more people coming into football.
Yeah, football's so competitive now. Yeah. Even working, being at a professional club, doing 3 training sessions a week, some parents don't feel like it's enough.
Yeah.
To get your son to that next level. A lot of these parents don't want to fall behind, so they have to keep up with the one-to-ones.
Well, I mean, give a couple of things there. So you have to. So, I mean, whether you're doing it one-to-one or doing it yourself, if you're only doing 3 sessions a week, you got no chance.
You got no chance.
That's reality. Listen, not saying you have to do some with a one-to-one coach. Yeah. Because you don't. If you've got a motivated player who can do that, you have a system you can use. Do it. Use my app, for example. So, like I said, but
we'll talk about that later.
But what I'm saying is that what you find is the same. I use the same analogy all the time. You've got one of the best violin players in London. they're having some individual work with some top violin teacher. Or if you've got someone who's just learned the violin, like my daughter, bless her, the other year, she needed some help. You know what I mean? Because, you're sitting through that. She did that boom, but then so you get someone to help them to, accelerate them. She has a bit of teaching, anything. So some reason in football, people say, no, you don't, why is it different? You've got a tennis player, same thing, whether they're a beginner or they're like an elite pro player, you get individual work.
100%.
So it feeds into everything. So it just helps accelerate the learning process.
100%.
All right, so you do it. But like I say, for everyone, if the academy players, it's a saturated, really competitive market.
Very
you have
competitive,
to be doing work, whether you're doing it with me or doing it by yourself. You've got to be doing a little bit extra.
You've got to do some individual work. Ultimately, you're doing 3 sessions a week, and that's in a team scenario, right? So if there's weaknesses that you have that you might need to work on, you might need to get yourself a Saul. You know what I mean?
Something similar. But what's interesting, also what I do now, like I do a lot of consultancy with academies to try and help them with their individual program, their individual skills program, individual technical program. Is it really individual focused? What I said, because like I say, because of the coaching courses are so game-based, group-based, team-based, maybe there is that little information gap, a little bit of a space where there's not that. Coaches don't know how to deliver that quality individual ball mastery 1v1 work, if you like, because there's no courses out there really, the conventional way to teach them how to do that. So that's why I come in to support people to do that 100%. And help them in terms of key things how to deliver those things.
I mean, because we're kind of slow walking the dog, I would say, to the question about the app, which we're going to get to. So that's why I'm just asking. Now we've moved into the sphere of content creation, because that's what the app is as well. For me personally, this is one thing that is key now, which is actually very, very prominent with what's happening in the football industry. Everything in this day and age is data, social media, everything is online. You have to see, the visuals are just immense. So when did social media become necessary, not optional for you? When did you realize, okay, this is necessary, this is not optional anymore?
I don't know really. It's difficult to say when it was that trigger point, if you like, when that's there. But because it's always been there. I remember when I did my first website,
right? And
I was like, wow, this has changed the game for me. And it was someone had done a website, and a friend of mine, and I did my own one. And was talking about this 20 years ago, and that really accelerated. And that website still performs one of the top on Google for me. Wow. The PDA football. That was long, but I'm saying that. So I realized, wow, this is really powerful in terms of the internet. And then obviously the social media started to come in and obviously be really effective. So it was almost like a slow sort of, transition, wasn't it? And to the point where, you just run better posts and posting all the time and then making content and that sort of thing.
And the engagement, yeah. Now, seeing as you understand that, okay, cool, just being out there in social media, in the social media world, it's a quicker way to, I don't know, get visibility from someone in Japan or China or in the United States. At what point did you then realize, I think now I need to transition into making an app? What was the real reason for you to go into that?
I think it's just a simple business one. Thinking, right, I'm so successful. I'm doing so many sessions I want a week. But then you're always limited, aren't you? And I knew that the mass market was the world. It's an unlimited market, really, billions of people around the world. So, but how can I do what I do, in terms of like that and with, the passive revenue stream, basically. So that was a natural progression for me. But I think I've got to wind back a bit. I remember when I was at Tottenham and I was trying to do some stuff abroad. So I'd email people. I went to do a camp in Thailand. Yeah. And then I went to the guy, like I said, look, he goes, look, you can't use Tottenham badge on it. He goes, well, you're Tottenham coach. No one knows who Saul is, and they know you as a Tottenham coach. And I thought, right, that's it. I need to build my brand enough where I can travel around the world and under my name and my brand. And that was the thing. That's my drive. That's what I want to do. And obviously, luckily, that's what I do now. Ironically, he did use the badge, and I got a written warning from Tottenham, but I didn't know anything about it. I didn't consent to doing it. But that was for me was a real about trigger points or pivot moments. Right, how can I want to be traveling around the world on my own name, on my own brand, and doing camps like that. And fortunately, I've managed to do that over 20 years, cycle.
That's interesting. Is this app, is it on both on, what's it called? Apple and...
Yeah, iOS and Android. So the app came, maybe 10 years ago, maybe more now, started as a website, and a bit of a brain dump, individual training just for players, supporting players. Because it came about really because obviously at Tottenham, players doing homework was a real key part of the philosophy. Yeah. Right, here's a bit of technical homework I'm going to show you, a skill combination or some pass receiving against the wall. Go and practice it, come back. And I thought, well, this is not really efficient way of doing it because I've got to show people, they need to be downloading something. So I actually made a DVD for all the coaches at Tottenham and do it. And I thought, right, that was my thing. Well, how can I do that? And obviously, when I went to Chelsea, started to grow and thinking, right, these players all around the world need some sort of support in terms of how to do some, some technical training homework, basically. Started off with that as a principle. Then it moved into, coach education as well. It's coaching courses on there, Ball Mastery 1v1. I've got a new course, and we're going to talk about it. And then I do B2B stuff as well. So clubs use it for their players. So they give all the players have access to it. Adds a bit of value to the club partnership. Gotcha. And then all the coaches get access to coach things. So, it's gone from being just a player thing to be players, coaches, and clubs as well, basically, over that time.
I think you just said something about this app was created 10 years ago, you said?
10, roughly. Wow. I did that. Maybe, 10 roughly must be about now. I mean, originally, the first, probably the first ideas.
Are you heavily pushing this app? Maybe this year, I don't know how long you've been promoting the app, because, like I said again, it's one of those, because it's such a saturated market.
Yeah.
And sometimes you see loads of... there's an app I have on my phone, right? I can't remember what the name... That's how old I've had this app on my phone. Like, you get things from Barcelona, AC Milan.
Yeah.
Then there's some bits in there that you have to unlock. You have to pay like £6 something and all that stuff. It's your app, something similar to that. Do you have bits on that you'd have to pay to unlock?
So it's like most apps. It's a freemium model. You sign up, you get for free, and there's new video every week, like a skill video, like a 1v1 skill. And then, there's courses, like age-appropriate courses, 5 to 7, 8 to 11, 12 to 16, 17. Plus, then there's position-specific courses for better players. Also, there's, a more technical, 24-day technical transformation. And now we just released the virtual academy, where it was been going for about a year or so. Well, now that's just also then, every month you get technical, tactical analysis. You get mindset sessions as well from psychologists, football psychologists. Wow. Get scouting tips from Chris Robinson, who's the scouting game head of recruitment at Southampton. There's physical sessions. So there's a real complete global thing for any player. You can plug it in. It's only $9.99 a month. You can try it 3 days for free.
That's
it.
Wow.
There's over 100 challenges.
So you don't need Spotify.
Wow.
But the key for me was I just want to make it as accessible as possible. Yeah. Like I said, it's $9.99 a month. Nothing really. You can get it. It's over 100 challenges. You get new videos every month from proper Premier League coaches. So you're not. That's what I say. People say, what's the difference in your app and other apps? Mine is obviously my USP.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, but Arsenal have used my app, Wolves, Middlesbrough, some of the best academies in the country, and then obviously Grassroots Club. But also, I've got some of the best Premier League practitioners on there as well. So it's nothing like that on the market in terms of with that sort of experience.
So just to strip it back, I'm a 12-year-old boy. I play for ELA. I've got aspirations of getting into an academy. I know Saul's fantastic at what he does, so I would just go and download the app.
Download My Personal Football Coach from the App Store. It's free.
Yeah.
And obviously
we'll put the link below.
Free. Put it on the link, and then and then try one of the courses. Like if you're a good player, try.
So I'm a centre mid. I'm a centre mid.
Try the centre. There's a midfielder course on there. There's a wide player course, striker course. There's technical courses. Try those, and it just basically gives you like a step-by-step system of how to train alone.
Gotcha.
Because that's what other thing we talk about. Whether you're an individual coach or you train by yourself, a lot of players don't train efficiently. So every second on the pitch is vital. And, sometimes you could do a 20-minute workout, which you get as good quality as if you did like an hour session 100%. When you're not working.
Because how many touches of the ball you're getting as well? Yeah, definitely.
So it's about touches, but it's about quality touches, which lead to quality development and lead to game actions as well. That's the key thing. When you're practicing, like I say, what you're going to do in a game, is this going to come out in a game?
On the last point you made is actually so important, because when I sometimes watch kids or people online, even in real life, you see people do this one-to-one training, and they've got cones, markers, and all that stuff. In a real game, the child or the individual is not going to be playing against cones and markers, and I believe, of course, there's a variation to the way you coach. So the question here now is, how has visibility changed the way you coach?
I think it's like this is what the FA course has been good at. It's understanding, in terms of the game reference, linking things to the game. So if I think about when I first started coaching 20 odd years ago, what I do now looks different. I want the same sort of outcomes, but do this. And what I'm talking about in terms of, I think directional is a really important word. So what does directional mean? It means, for example, most of my session is in terms of, can I receive the ball? With pressure, so I use a mannequin. I've got a mannequin. You might see me rolling around London with a mannequin on the wheels. I'll run it, so it's receiving the ball, and then can I try and break the line? So most of my sessions, whatever age I'm working with, can I receive the ball and turn take a touch, break the line, to play forward to a shot, pass across. So it's game actions.
Yeah.
That's what's really important. So you link it too much to the game. It's directional because obviously, for example, am I safe side? How am I going to break the line? Is there space? Can I disguise before I receive it? That sort of thing. And then always with an outcome as well. So that's what's really important in terms of what a session should look like. Because then it says, that actually looks like the game. I'm going to receive it. I'm going to turn. That's why all my combination work, skill work, is direction. I think that's really important as well. So I'm direction in terms of, if you see my skill combination work, I'll have a mannequin and I'm doing it either safe side or with relation to that defender there. Even if it's a combination, it's movement work. And I'm trying to break that line to try and play forward with some sort of thing rather than I'm going around and around. For me, I think that's really important. So you still, everything is completely linked to the game. I'm doing it with a purpose to make that player more game effective. And I think that's really key.
That totally makes sense because I've been around so many parts of London, and like we all know, football is a very lucrative business, I guess. So every little patch or grass or green, someone has got like multiple cones and markers, and you just see them moving. I'm thinking, fair enough, because I don't know, there's context to everything. I don't know if I've just turned up and that's what I'm seeing. I don't know if they've done what you've just said, working with the mannequin and the movement. I don't know, but from what I see most times is just people, and the way the world is right now, so many parents have no clue about football. They've just seen it as it's either a pathway to wealth or they love the game and they're trying to live vicariously through their kids. Yeah. So what would be your advice personally as someone you've been in the game for? Sorry amigos. What would be your own advice for someone that's been in the game for that long, 2 decades?
Yeah, I think personally, there's value in everything.
Yeah.
With players on the ball and they're dribbling. And remember, cones are like you said, they're markers. Use them to mark a space. So even value, for a real young player, just dribbling into a cone, coming back and do it because they're trying to learn how to dribble. There's value in everything. But for me, it's about trying to work efficiently and effectively as possible. And you use that word context. That's really important. And I think there's the other misunderstanding is that when you're doing, even my ball mastery is all contextualized. The ball mastery I'm doing at the beginning of the session is taken directly from the 1v1 duel. So the player in front, player in the side, player in front, player behind me. So that's really important. So even that is, do you know what I mean? So I'm working really important. So when I'm doing the combination work, I'm thinking about how the player would move with those movements, where the pressure is. So I say to anyone, it's difficult because, like I say, there's so many coaches out there doing it. There's some really good young coaches coming up, and I've spoken to some of them. And there's some people who are just bang average, they're just doing it, maybe whatever. But the problem is, it's difficult because if you're a parent, how do you make that decision? And the problem is there's no benchmark course until I've just done one, so maybe that's one way, but it's difficult to understand. So as a parent, I'd say, right, what's the background of the coach? Yeah. Why are you bringing the coach there? If you bring a player there to get improved and they want to play high level and you're paying good money, what's the background of the coach? Have they worked in academy football? Have they got an experience of developing top players, that sort of thing? Or, that's the thing. The problem is that there's lots of coaches out there with massive Instagram followings. Yeah. And they're
really done much.
And they're just personalities.
Yeah, definitely.
And you look in the sessions, and they're not really anything behind that. Yeah. But that's the modern day we live in. There's no substance behind that. They've got hundreds of thousands of followers. Yeah. They've never worked a day in a probably academy football. But saying that, there's some coaches who haven't, and they're good as well. So it's difficult to say, but you just got to do your research, have a bit of background. I say to all parents who work with me, the proof is in the pudding. Yeah. If you're coming to work with me and you have a few sessions, you're not seeing improvement, don't come back. It's not worth it. It's not worth yours. So you should see the improvement in when the players are playing, training, and playing in games as well.
That is just amazing to hear because obviously with ELA again we one of, if not the biggest grassroots team in West London, I would say, because I don't want other people to cry and be like, what do you mean you've not been around London and all of that they say to me. So the other day we had a festival at West Ham, and the boys went there, they had a great time, but it was just interesting to see that loads of teams were there. I mean, and some teams didn't have kit, so clearly they were not a team. They just bunch of boys together quickly, just the parents, oh yeah, sure. And the reason I'm bringing this up is all about branding. Like the way you are a brand, So what would you link branding to authenticity? Because like you said, we've got people with loads of massive following and all that stuff, but they're not a brand. You know? So does that really how do I put this? Does that affect the way for you, because you're a professional in your field? Does that affect the way you perceive other coaches or other people and how they do what they do in this?
Not necessarily, because there's some, I can name some top coaches there which are not, driven by brand, basically. But it depends what's the point of a brand. A brand is really you're developing your business and your USP. So that's important for me, especially to build my app and get me out there, want to travel, that sort of thing. So that's part of the brand, but also the brand is also, you're reliable, you've got a good word of mouth, people have got a good reputation. That's also a brand as well.
Yeah,
so you don't necessarily...
I think if you're a phony, it's only a matter of time before you get found out. So no matter how many followers you have, how good you are on camera, ultimately, if you're not delivering, people won't be coming back to you.
No, but
and it's a credit.
You're right. But I've seen it in real life. People actually go with the numbers.
Yeah,
that's one of the.
But would they get repeat customers all the time? That's my point. True, they might get new customers all the time.
Yeah, but you see this guy. You see some people on Instagram, not name names, who've got this huge following now. Yeah. And they're just they're on there. They're just talking absolute twaddle. But because they're talking so loud, they're shouting and saying this and that,
and people believe it.
They attract people.
100%.
And you're thinking, why are people doing that? Absolute dog, whatever. But that's what I mean. It's difficult. So, like I say, people don't necessarily understand it. But for me, like I said, the branding was important. Even as a good friend of mine is a top coach, and I say to him all the time, like, why do you not have your brand on your theme? Because he's one of the best coaches out there. It's important. Do you know what I mean? So it just adds it in terms of you can build it, and it opens up other things.
Yeah, no. Fortunately, and maybe unfortunately for some people that are still maybe stuck in the early 2000s or mid 90s. Content is everything. That's for free. Content is everything. And I personally have been, since we started this podcast, I'll go to matches and coaches are looking at me and I'm looking at them like, I don't know you, but good podcast, man. Yeah. Oh, amazing. And
push in the limelight a lot. I think when you're on the camera, you get it, must get it a lot.
And I'm like, okay, because I do this outside football anyway, so I'm used to. I'm not really, but it's just the same thing that happened 3 days ago. Went to this West Ham festival, and I was about to play this coach's team, and he stopped me to talk about the podcast. He was like, so this is what I'm talking about, branding. Do you know what I mean? It's like maybe the way we've branded ourselves.
Yeah, and it's the thing is, like Gary Vee, who's like if you know Gary Vee, if you don't know, do research. He's one of the best in terms of social media. He said the other day, like content. You've got to do content all the time. Like I say, because I've got the podcast and I've got like a YouTube channel where I visit academies around the world, and that reaches I've been all around the world saying, I love your content, love your stuff, and even like within the game as well, like the elite level coaches. Like one coach was on an Inside the Academy one club. He got a job at another massive club in Europe because they'd seen the show. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And you just don't realise how the reach of like.
It comes
YouTube.
with a lot of expectation, though.
Content.
It comes with a lot of expectation. You know what I mean? Like when you're out there, you put yourself out there now. You have to deliver.
And do you know what I mean? And to be fair, I know I deal with the pressure differently because I know wherever we go to or we're playing just a normal game of football. Because people have watched this, now they were like, okay, let's see if they can apply this.
Because I do a lot of stuff with Surrey Coaches Association, Football Coaches Association, and now I do a session and people turn up, but you get used to that. I used to really, get a bit anxious, get worried, but now like you do it. And, I do that, I travel around the world and do conferences and stuff, but that's part of parcel. I say to everybody, I want to when I was younger, I remember I first started, I had public speaking anxiety. I really had an issue, especially when I started teaching, even like that. But then I challenged myself to do. I said, I want to be one of the best at this. Every opportunity I had to do it, I took it. So sometimes you want to come and speak here or be on a podcast. I'd do it just because I want to be better at it. And I got better. So now I can go and do it. And I feel the pressure. I remember I did a session in Singapore the other day. I always do new stuff I've never done before. Yeah. It didn't really work that well. But I know actually I learned from that. That's fine. Yeah. But I wasn't, I'm not thinking, that's the thing. You just got to be able to do it. And as long as you can, say you're doing things for a reason and a purpose, and then say, actually, maybe I reflect and would have done things better or differently. That's key, but that's part and parcel. You have to. Like I say to everybody, if you want to be sitting at the table, basically, this is what you got to do. People are going to have to watch you. You have to back up what you're saying. You've got to be good. I've known coaches in academy football, who bottle it when parents are watching. And it's someone who's got quite a senior role. I won't bring his name up. It's quite funny. He's gone quite a senior role somewhere else. Kind of under pressure when someone's watching him. I think, what's all that about? You can't. You shouldn't be at the table.
Some people.
You shouldn't be at the table.
If
you're not, because that's for me. Academy football is the panacea. Is the top. That is the level. in youth development. You work there. That's where you learn. That's where the environment. That's where the challenge is. I remember, my first sessions when in development centre, when working with Greg Lincoln, who was well at Arsenal and previously just recently at England. He battered me at one of my sessions, and I was like, oh my God, I was tough. But I thought, you know what, he's right. And I took that and I changed it, and it made me, even like Danny Buck, one of my first sessions, gave me some real critical feedback. Wow. But that was what I wanted. I wanted to be the best, one of the best, and that's what you need. Like, you can't take it, take the pressure, cook, get out of the kitchen. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing, and that's what I'm saying. That is the level. If you're not, then if you don't fancy it, going back and do what you do.
That is true. It's about setting standards. I feel even sometimes when parents, like in grassroots football, they're like, "Oh, we watch your podcast," and I'm like, "But you don't even." Our club, you're not even part of the. But that just goes to show that people are watching, people are listening. And so for you in this situation, because we're in the content world, do you ever feel the pressure to always maybe tweak things to pander to other people or to maybe a new group of, I don't know, viewers?
Well, listen, I think you always understand what does well on Instagram. Do you know what I mean? And it's like a top player smashing the ball in the top corner. It's not.
You had a couple yourself, so I've seen. I've seen a couple of yours,
I still pull them out. But it's not a top player or me smashing the ball 20 yards over the bar, which they all do, by the way. I mean, everyone does it, but that's part and parcel of the game. So you can watch live sessions of me working with pro players, but you have to. That's the nature of the content, isn't it? And the beat. So you understand you're doing it to get engagement and interaction and people to into it. So maybe there is a question there. Maybe you compromise in reality because you're only choosing the best bits. But that's you got to give the public.
Now let's bring it back to academy football, and I mean, because again, it's a grassroots team. ELA is a grassroots team. We are the gap. We're bridging the gap between grassroots and academy. You are pretty much the best person to speak to about this. Now, we know there's a massive influx of players that really want to make it in football, and it's impossible. I don't know, is it 0.1 that will make it or something? Yeah, that crazy number. What would be your best advice now, especially for kids growing up, maybe between the ages of, let's say, let me be realistic, ages between 9 to like 15? What is the one thing, because you've worked with a lot of players, what's that one thing actually it's got a high percentage of working? If you can get that, you're halfway there.
I think make it. Now, what's going to increase your chances of getting a contract signed, the same whether you're 9 or whether you're 29, is that what's going to make you stand out in a game? What are the game changer moments? If you're a defender, obviously stopping, and then you're building out plans. So you look, and if I'm a centre back, obviously defending off the ball, understanding how to defend 1v1 or 1v2 or 2v2s, understanding defending off the ball in possession. The modern day defender has to be able to break lines, step in, be like a deep line midfielder. You've got to be good on the ball, even as a goalie these days. Now, if you're not good with your feet and comfortable under pressure, be able to play out, you've got no chance really. So understanding what's going to make me stand out. If I'm going on trial, I say to everybody, what's going to make you stand out? So you've got to be brave, you've got to be courageous, you've got to practice. What's going to come up in a game. If I'm a striker, I want to get signed, I've got to be better than a striker there already.
100%.
Yeah. I've got to practice scoring goals, obviously. Yeah. I've got to practice getting in position to score goals, breaking lines, breaking pressure, defender behind me, defender in front.
Yeah, definitely.
Practice also. I think about what's going to come up in a game. Yeah. Work. Get a system to work from, and then really hammer that down. And that's the game-changing moments. You've got the best players in the Premier League. You've got those players are the players who make the difference in the game.
Yeah, you've got to find out what you are as a player. Do I stop goals? Do I create goals? Or do I score goals? And then perfect it.
And also, everyone's different. Everyone's profile's different. Yeah. So, like, some players are rapid, they're running. Some players can't really run, but maybe they're... So if I say if you don't have that natural athleticism, that's going to be an issue. You've got to be the best technically.
100%. And you've got to be quick upstairs.
Very quick upstairs. Yeah. So players can't get you. You're playing forward all the time. You're breaking lines. You can do that.
Definitely.
And you outwit people. You're technically so good. You can't. Players talk about. I suppose a lot of the guys used to play at Chelsea. Talk about Kovacic all the time. Unpressable in Chelsea because he's both-footed, both sides. You can't get around him. You've got to be like that. Like Modric, so good on it. It doesn't matter. You're not a massive, big athlete. So remember what your profile is. What's going to enhance your chances of getting signed? And that's going to be, are you dominating the game? Also personality as well, character, being brave, being on there, trying, that's how you're going to stand out as well. You've got to try and be a leader, try and be a captain, which might sound like a cliche, but these are all important things.
Yeah, but there's some kids watching, or they're probably younger kids going, but I'm not tall enough though, but I'm really good at defending. And you know how the system is in this country. It's all about profiling. You have to be this certain height, which I get.
That's the nature of the beast.
I know,
at the end of the day,
but
like,
that's what I'm saying. It's realistic.
it's
but we know we've had
yeah.
your Cannavaros, your defenders that are not the tallest. You know what I mean?
Not that many in England.
Of course, that's what I'm saying.
We've got Martinez now at Man United. Maybe it's changing a little bit. You've got to be able to jump very high, and get away with it.
Yeah.
Jaffat, who was at Tottenham, was top defender. I'm not massive, played for Tottenham very high level, just unbelievable defender, a monster, and the 1v1 defender, a beast, could smash people, tackle, could jump, could have the leap. So there's ways around it. But you remember say, if you are 5'4", and you're getting on, maybe centre back isn't the best position for you. And then maybe you've got to move in and maybe be in a deep line, maybe be on 6.
Ultimately, clubs won't look at you, if I'm being honest. I've been a scout for 12 years, right? Like, so if a player doesn't meet a profile of over 6'2" as a goalkeeper or even a defender, as a centre back, then they wouldn't. Unfortunately, it's just
sometimes you
it's
have
just the nature of the beast. You
have to be the, what should I call it? You have to play on the other side of it, because there's some people, there's some kids, like I work with. There's a kid called Alex. He's technically great, but it's not the fastest. He's not I don't think he's ever going to be the fastest. But technically, he knows. It's just sometimes what he's thinking, it's not what he does. Do you know what I mean? He's just quite slow. So players like that, and knowing you've helped a lot of players, sign and just get to the next stage. For players like that, what would be their advice? Because there's just not just, I'm just using him as a reference point, but there are loads and loads of players that would love to know what to do. Yeah,
it's the same principle. The same. You've got to be as good on the ball as possible, good off the ball as well. But what's in your control?
True. So control the controllables. That's
exactly.
It. That's
so if the ball coming to me, whatever position is, I can receive it on both sides, receive it on both feet under pressure. I can receive it. I can hold on to it and then I can release it. That's the key, isn't it? Now, for me, it's like everything's about breaking lines. Can you break lines? Especially if you're a forward player.
100%.
And so what that means? It means I can either break lines with a run, can break lines with a pass in or cross or a shot, or I can dribble past a player.
Definitely.
So that's what, if any player, say work on those three things. And if you're a 10, you're an 8, that looks a bit different. I'm receiving to try and play forward, side on, because I always play forward in pockets. I'm playing forward. I mean, if I'm a 7 or 11, I'm driving past players or combination to run past players, that sort of thing. So again, what position do you play? What's your profile as a player? Maybe you're a wide player who's more like a wide 10, like a Juan Mata, who's maybe not rapid. So maybe you're coming inside a bit more. You're trying to play combinations, that sort of thing. So like I say, not everybody has the ability to break lines with the ball at their feet. So you have to do that, understand it, and then have a system. When you're training, you do 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes a day, whatever. Work effectively. Say, this is what I'm doing. This is why I'm doing it, to improve my movement on the ball, to be more explosive, dynamic. That's what the dynamic ball mastery is. And also then to be more productive when I get on the ball in the game.
And in your app, do you touch on things like this as well?
Yeah, I mean, that's how my philosophy is called dynamic ball mastery. It's about being more explosive and dynamic on the ball. But then that's it. If you're like, everything's built around it. All the ball mastery's been built around 1v1 duel. It's about being better in those situations. The position-specific courses are like that. It's okay, your ball mastery is related to your position. The drills are related to your position. These are the drills. These are the game-changing moments. Let's break them down. That's how you train them. And that's what I mean. Everything has to be linked into that, basically.
Makes sense. And what's that one thing that is synonymous with all the top players you've worked with? What's that one thing they do outside the mentality?
Yeah, well, I think mentality is the big thing.
Yeah.
I mean, technical consistency. That's the thing. These guys can reproduce it at speed and intensity and under pressure. That's what sets them apart the rest, and that's tied into the mentality and the work they put in, the drive, and that sort of thing. Speed, I remember early on in my career. That's why I called my philosophy dynamic ball mastery. I recognised the academy players, the top players, were just dynamic on the ball, explosive on the ball, and not necessarily they could run 100 meters in 10 seconds. When they got the ball, they were sharp.
They're sharp, yeah.
And so that's what you got to be. You're sharp. So even if you're not necessarily super quick, when the ball comes, I'm sharp. When the ball, before I receive the ball, movements to create a bit of space. Receive it, take a touch, play forward. You know what I mean? I don't have to. The other misconception is we're not trying to get everybody to be like Messi or Maradona.
That's true.
But obviously it helps when you're developing quality on the ball. But you want players who have the ability to be able to break the line, and that can look like Xavi, little movements just to play forward, or it might look like Messi coming, whatever the profile is. So you've got to understand what you're trying to get to in the end.
Is there any player you've worked with from a young age that has actually grown and has made it into the academy and has actually signed a pro contract?
Oh yeah, loads of players who've gone and
one major player right now still playing. Like, his trajectory is just taking him. You've seen him from a very young age.
So that 2 years when Max was off, was you working with him?
Yeah. That's the only thing he was doing. So the only thing he was doing was doing that sessions with me. And a bit like Ruel Waters as well, actually, was at Arsenal. So he left Tottenham, was COVID, didn't have a club for 2 years. Again, we trained. That's all we did. That was COVID as well.
Wow.
I actually got him a trial at Man United. For some reason, they didn't go through. And I got Lee Heron, from Arsenal, head of recruitment, to come down. I know Lee very well. Came down to watch one of my sessions, and he got him signed. Do you know what I mean? And even the dad said, he came out, he stepped out of a different Category 1 academy, said he was going backwards. And I saw him and said he wasn't that, he was just a shadow of himself, very athletic, dynamic player. So we just got him explosive again, and he got him to that journey to go back in. You know what I mean? And now obviously he played Arsenal. He made a first team day with Arsenal. Now he plays for Luton in their first team. So there's stories around that. These guys, wouldn't necessarily recommend obviously not having a club for 2 years. Of course. But it just shows what's possible if you train in the right way and have a methodology.
That's impressive.
And even Max says the same. Max got this great podcast clip he did when he did a podcast with Jermaine Jennison for Adidas, where he said he wasn't really dynamic or that quick before he started training with me, but he became so much more dynamic and explosive working this way. And that's the whole point of it. I see a lot of sessions, ball mastery sessions or just general sessions. They're low paced, they're low intensity. And especially if you've got no opposition as a game, even what's the point? If you're trying to do this, you have to bring that intensity. So if you're a coach or a player, you've got to learn how to work explosively. So that means
train
you
the
work
way you want to
explosively,
play, right? Yeah.
And then that's what the game's like: explosive, recover, explosive, recover. So my session will be like, do a set of 4, have a recovery. Do a set of 8, have a recovery. That's what I want, because I want the interesting outcomes happen when you hit the peaks. There's peaks and troughs. That's where it. A lot of players, coaches will train like this all the time, and the quality drops. It's technical. It's completely pointless if you're working technically, unless you're working with a pro player. You're talking about technical fatigue. There's still something in it, but to get especially young players, lots of examples where players, the session's so intense, but they just don't have any time to recover, so the quality drops. So I think that's a big issue.
Yeah, that's true. I was just gonna say when you were speaking at that talking about the hiatus of 2 years, and also how what's it called, really good players play football. Then I was just thinking to myself, wait, hold on a minute. So you technically get yourself into that space like the footballer. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, because Max was training with you. Obviously, he had a goal in mind, just like you had a goal in mind. And it was. Do you ever feel like you're in a position where you want it more than your client? Because at that point, that person is your client. Do you ever
sometimes you can think, unless that's the problem, is like, are they really that driven?
Yeah.
Where a lot of pro players who come maybe and they're not, they don't give it 100%. You say, well, what's the point in doing it? But there's guys maybe they get a bit sharp and stuff like that. When loads of young players, like say parents, especially early on in my career, I want to work with Saul, the kids actually not that into it, but the parents, you talk about living vicariously, you get a lot of that. And then I'm thinking, well, actually, this doesn't really work for me because doesn't really,
It's not what you want.
Exactly. You need a player. Give me a player who's going to work hard, whether I'm working individually or a group session. Give me players who want it, who are going to work in, remember my time at Chelsea. The good thing about Chelsea is that it was said, they get more better players than everybody else because they're so aggressive with their recruitment. Everybody knows, right? They spend more money on recruitment and reflects. They get, generally, Arsenal are very close. That's the thing. Those two clubs are massive. Then below that, you have the other clubs close. But when I was at Arsenal and obviously Chelsea, but there's stuff there. You've got so many good players. The level's so high. The intensity is so high. And even, Chelsea used to say the toughest games each week are when they play against themselves in training, because there's so many top players. Do you know what I mean? And then they just feed off each other, and then the competition, the competitive cauldron, and that's where you see those really great things happen.
That's so interesting, because there's so many. Yeah, you could just see the age group and as well, and just seeing the years and. Well,
my first age group at Chelsea was Jamal Musiala, Tino Livramento, Levi Colwell was in there. Wow. Ben Elliott at the time was playing Red Nose, probably the best academy player in London at the time. There's more, even more of those guys. Desiree Rasaki, who's going to go to Lone Rangers Palace. Yeah. Loads of, so many. That was they were like the Harlem Globetrotters of academy football.
Definitely.
And they would just, you just set a session up and they just go for it. And they put it, because the nerves will be so high because they feed off each other.
And they just get it immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to stop and start. You don't have to
they just...
It's crazy. And that's another thing as well. I was just saying, because obviously in the grassroots level, there's a lot of stop and start, because, again, you've got different levels. Some kids get it, some kids don't, And with you, I guess most people come there, they need to be ready anyway. Like you did say earlier, it's like, if you're not really, it's not this. I don't think this is for this person, or I don't think this is for me. Do you ever get a situation where people turn up for your session and you maybe 5 minutes into it, you're going, okay, I'm going to call this quit. I'm not
I get it all the time.
Oh, wow.
I just say is this worth it? I'll get some players turn up and they just get sick because they can't handle the intensity. I'm talking about England under 21 internationals. They're not expecting the intensity. Because I say, your individual session is going to be the hardest session you do, should be, because you're on the ball all the time, you're working explosively, dynamic. It's going to be physically demanding. Players aren't used to it, especially if you come home. Players get sick. When did you eat? They get dizzy. They got things. So players obviously sometimes aren't ready for it. Obviously, I'm not saying you make them sick. But I mean, but the people, the players aren't used. They go, wow. I had one player, big player, plays in Italy, one of the big teams. He came to a session. I can tell he came with another player. Didn't really thought, this is a bit. I don't really up for this. But at the end of the session, he was like, I love this. This is it, because he was fire. He was intense. He saw the game in it. He was explosive. And they get hooked. They're like, they get hooked on it because they go into sessions. They go into their training and games. They feel sharper. They're more explosive, more dynamic, and they're more game effective. And these guys at top level, they're thinking, well, this is actually, I can see it now. This is working.
And then they finally buy into it. Do you believe in this thing where ex-professional players don't make good coaches, and players that never played and coaches that never played on a professional level make good coaches? Do you believe in that?
No, that's because every person's journey is different. Like Neil Bath used to have a great thing. He said he wanted, a certain amount of ex-pros, a lot of ex-Chelsea players in there, some from grassroots, people like us come through, and some other players. So everyone's different. Everyone adds value. I can't maybe talk to players about that, being in that situation, but I bring something different to it. I have a speciality. I've proven what I do it. I don't subscribe to that. Some, like anyone, you have some ex-pros who are, unbelievable, world class. Some ex-pros maybe don't have that, especially with a certain age group, they haven't found their niche. You have some grassroots coaches who come from that who can't handle it. You have some who are just top and they're natural, they excel, they're meant for it. So everyone is different. I think it's too easy to generalise and say, that's that. And it's either people. Maybe it's people with Rose who don't want people like me in the game, or people grassroots coaches who can't get into it, saying, why are they getting all the opportunities? Listen, football, it's about all different people bringing different things to the table, I think.
Yeah, because that is another thing which I know everyone has heard about it, because now a lot of people are not happy with the level of, or should I say, the new age coaches. They call them the iPad coaches. Because they most of them cannot do like a kick up. Is that important? If a coach, or let's say someone's coaching your son or your daughter, must the coach be able to kick a ball for you to be like, okay, I think I trust this coach, or it doesn't matter?
Well, it depends what you're doing. So, I mean, when I first, like I said, was in my career in America, I started my career in America, we used to have, these coaches come out, some female coaches come out, and they didn't play football at all, but they were so good with the young players, they built such a relationship, they could learn those basics, and that was what they brought to the table. And like I was saying, so it depends. If you're an individual technical coach and you can't kick a ball, then you're going to have trouble. I mean, I had a chat with a coach the other day, and he made a great point. This is all we do technical work. You work one-to-one with a player, so you need to have a bit of understanding. If you're working in a group session, get away with it because you can get a kid to demo. But I mean, then who's demoing if so you need to have some sort of relationship with the ball. It doesn't have to be unbelievable technical player, but you have to have something. It's going to help. So, I mean, if you go in there, you're towing it, it's going over the bar every time. I mean, people, ironically, some people in academy football can do. I like that actually, but that's it. But it depends. Like, everyone's different. But if you're working with really young players, and it's more about being enigmatic and correct, and trying to make them have fun, stuff like that, then maybe it's not as important.
That is so true. Because with, I don't know, you've worked in other, like you mentioned, America. The profile there and the profile here, they're totally very different, correct? Like, we already know this. I know in England, we think about your height, your this, your that. The profiling is all physical. Why in other parts of the world, it's probably more technical. Would you say you enjoy... Maybe clearly you do, but it might sound like a silly question, but it's not, because you never know. Do you enjoy working with people in England than maybe abroad? Or would you say there's something unique about the guys abroad that's so different to the people in the UK?
Yeah. I mean, if like I said, I'm lucky. Unfortunately, done a lot of travelling. To watch Ajax and Dynamo Zagreb, Anderlecht. They do things differently. Yeah. There is a lot more focus on technique and individual, and less focus on physicality. In that, and if I said, Dynamo Zagreb, I believe one of the most successful academies ever. They hold the world record for players in a World Cup semi-final or final. Yeah. I watched 8s to the 21s. Every age group had an element of 1v1 in there. every 1v1, and it looked different in every age group and every element, and it looks thing. Look, they're not doing anything amazing, but it's about the culture, and that's the key. So the culture, they want to develop technical players. Where maybe in England, still here now, it's a bit more physicality,
so much.
quick, robust. And that's done as well. We still produce a lot of players because we have the quick athletes and technical, but still there is more emphasis on that and gameplay and getting around the pitch and being effective as a 9. And, had someone said the other day, one of my players I work with, didn't get into an academy because the academy manager said there was too many dribblers in the 8s. And I thought, well, that's a crazy thing to say, From me personally, can you ever have too many dribblers and you teach them how to pass? I mean, that's that's the basis of what football is. So there is still, and each academy is different, but generally, like I said, it goes back to the coaching courses. They're not really there's not really individual technical focus in them at the moment. There's lots of other amazing things in them, and I had a great conversation with Zaid the other day, young coach who works up in top coach. He said I might not do, the FA courses because it doesn't really think they're appropriate. And I said, you're always going to get something. You should do them. It may be probably not appropriate for an individual coach or the small groups, but you're still going to improve because there's loads of great stuff on there. Yeah. But there's still space to maybe get some other stuff in there as well.
Just in terms of academy football, I know you've started a very long time ago, 2005. Don't want to make you sound old, obviously. And to now, what would you say is what's changed the most? That you say from academy football to now? Yeah, I remember, personally.
Yeah, listen, it's the EPPP changed the game, and also the FA under Southgate. Do you know what I mean? And that's that was a perfect synergy. So it became more professionalised. More full-time staff. I remember going to my boss very young, saying, I think we should have a different curriculum for the foundation phase. He said, we're not that advanced. You're talking about one of the most advanced people in football. Wow. But that's changed now. So you do have a foundation, so you have full-time specialists in the young age groups, the older age groups, interdisciplinary approach, physical, mental, those sorts of things. And, a much more professionalism, if you like. And that's helping, obviously, then with the England's youth teams in terms of how they're recruited. People like Richard Allen, who's top, so recruiting different sorts of profiles of players. People like Dan Machichi there, 16 friend of mine, doing, encouraging players to, going to Brazil and out, Brazilians, because we've had so many good footballers. So that was like a perfect storm, really, in terms of that. So really supported, that was a perfect storm, really, helped develop us. So we've come a long way, do you know what I mean? And, probably one of the best development systems in Europe now.
Yeah. To be fair, it looks like it. It's just that I've got the issue where we're so focused on physicality. And I think that's holding us back a lot because there's so many amazing players. They just, again, they wouldn't fit whatever criteria, whatever thing they're trying to do with clubs. But that's not, for me, my main question is, how do you coach confidence, not just technique? Because I feel like for someone to go to your session and do it and move up and just pivot, you must have, instilled some sort of confidence.
I think it goes back to what you're doing. So we wind back a bit. You talk about what Academy's doing here. Romeo Jozak, who used to be the Academy director and the technical director of Croatia and Dynamo Zagreb, top, one of the best player developers. We talked about a lot, Croatia, Dynamo Zagreb had a lot of top talent come through, like Modric and Kovacic. But he said, look, the program, you're going to also have these outliers, you support them, challenge them, but you've got to have a system for everybody else because all the other players need those attributes. Sure. And so some players will develop them naturally, evolve into doing them. Very like Noni's, Sancho's, who want to play Modric, wherever you're on the pitch. Most players need help. And the problem we have at the moment, especially in a lot of academies, I think generally, if a player has that, they're excel. If they don't have that, it's almost, you're left to your own devices. It's tough. Do you know what I mean? You don't get the time to focus individually on that, in terms of how to break lines, if you like, your position. So there is still, like say, some emphasis on physicality. So how do you develop confidence? Confidence on the ball. So I've got to be confident when the ball comes in any situation. I know how I'm going to deal with it beforehand. I don't even have to think about it, and then I'm going to have to play forward and break lines and that sort of thing. So it's the way you coach. You coach players to be that should be in there. So don't treat the ball like a hot potato. It's not about getting rid of it as quick as possible. Although you've got to be able to play quick as well. Yeah. But players got to be able to receive the ball, get the head up, take a bit of time, slow the game down. Have a touch. And I'll say to everyone, I see this a lot, where I'm doing conferences, sessions in this country, all around the world. You put on a positional player rondo, everyone's amazing at it, But if you put like a little 1v1 practice or a 2v2, players have difficulty because there's no overload. Yeah. So there's too much, in my opinion, focus on overloads in academy football. It makes everything a bit too easy, where you've got to force players to make decisions. And it's not saying every drill's not about, right, can you go and dribble past this player or 3 players. It's about, can I receive the ball and actually just play forward without having to pass? Can I play it into a goal or that sort of thing, and solve the 1v1 duel? Like I said, my whole philosophy is built around the 1v1 duel. If you can outwit your out counterpart, the opposite number, then you got a great chance.
That's
if you
good
can't,
problem solving. Yeah.
If you can't, then you got less of a chance. So if I can dominate play any 1-on-1, boom, the game becomes easy.
Yeah.
And as they say, Ajax, a good 1v1 beats any team tactics.
Yeah.
So that's what we should. That's what I can't understand. It's like, why don't we just spend most of the time on this with players, supporting players into dominating 1v1? And it's not a fun thing. No, but instead, it's much more based around the team thing. And maybe because it is like I say, I see the game differently through a different lens. But for me, like when I'm working in players individually, that's all I'm working on. Can you dominate your opposite number to then go and try and be successful?
And on my thing, it says, "What do you disagree with in football?" This is just funny. Exactly. I really want to talk about that.
Listen, there's many different ways to do things.
Yeah.
And there's no one way.
Yeah.
And there's lots of people, successful systems and practitioners. This is just the way I do it, and I've had success. And I'm talking about grassroots and at the Premier League. I coach. I've got footage of working something in training with several players, and then them doing that at Premier League or the Champions League. So I know what I do works.
Of course.
And there's other things, there's other ways to do things, but I know, I'm tried and tested. So that's why I'm encouraging people to try this. Because people say, don't really do individual ball work, mastery or 1v1. It's not representative of the game, or it is. You just got to see it properly and help players see that.
Yeah. So in general, Sammy, including you, is there one thing in football at the moment you really disagree with? Because obviously it's a change. Listen, it's changing every day, and every day I just pick up my phone or I'm watching something. I'm going, oh, for God's sake, is it really are we doing this now?
Personally, so you want to take this? Me personally, just because I'm a scout, I'm from a scouting background. In terms of scouting, if you're maybe, for example, a smaller club, you would need to act quick to get a player in, right? And now it's very much to get a player in, you need to have reports on a player. And that could slow down the process of getting a player in. That's just for me personally as a scout. I don't know about you, Saul.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I go to people, look, you got to have a look at this player. They're like, well, who's he play? Well, this. I'm saying, look, trust me, have a look at him.
Yeah.
I've done it for 20 years. Just have a word for look. I remember when I first started working, when me and Bucky did the 8s and the 9s. We could get him in, stick him in, don't tell no one, get him in the kit, we'll play him. Do you know what I mean? Put him on a different name. I'm not
to be honest, to give you a,
you just got to get him in, get him through the door.
Yeah,
have a look at him. Someone else is going to get him.
Sorry to cut you, just came to my head now. To give you a perfect example, I signed Luca Benetton, under 16 keeper at Crystal Palace now, without giving him a trial, and that's unheard of now. There's no way a club will sign a player without even having a look at him, letting them give him a trial. And I convinced, when I was working for Palace at the time, to sign Luca without a trial. Now, he's 14, he's training with the first team, playing for the under-18s, he's gone for the camp with them this week, and he's been called up for England. And that's without even giving him, we signed him without a trial. They haven't seen nothing about him. And he's going to be doing very, very, very big things.
No, I can tell.
Huge things.
He's solid. He's a solid guy.
He's the best keeper in England for his age group.
Wow.
Yeah.
And where'd you get him from?
He came to us for a bit, done a few sessions, went away. Then we needed a keeper at the time at Crystal Palace when I was working there. The relationship I had with the parents, another club's offered him. And I went back to the head of recruitment who backed me at the time, and the club backed me. And I was like, listen, we have to sign him. But
how old was he at that time?
13.
Wow.
13 or 12, one of the ages. They haven't seen him play. I'm like, we have to sign him. They're like, are you sure? But obviously I've built up the relationship where I've got a few players signed at the club, and he's come kind of like he's played for our club a little bit. And after they signed him, and that if you ask me one thing that the game now is, that won't happen now.
I feel it's rigid.
That won't happen now because it's so stringent in terms of to even get a play. It's crazy now, the scouting system, whereas it's without even getting reports on the player at a big Cat 1 now. You can't even get him in a development centre sometimes, let alone an academy trial, let alone getting him signed. That's what comes with and you know what I mean? Like we signed him honestly without a trial, without having anyone looking at him, based on and signing. And this is not that long ago. It's only about 2 years ago. So
I did say this was 2 weeks ago. I was talking to a parent about another team. And I said football is like a house party. I mean, the room is full. You can't come in. That's what it is. You just gotta be outside and watch, and just hope someone leaves. Then you will get. And he was like, but it wasn't us. Like, yeah, back in the day. I mean, now everyone treats it like a commodity. Everyone wants to be a footballer. I mean, the ones that are not great at it, they want to bring and go because the money, the fame, the status. And now even footballers are becoming content creators. So kids are now watching footballers thinking, I want to do that. They don't even focus on playing the game now. It's just, I just want to be like, I don't know, any of the other players. So for me, one thing I think that should change is I think we're so reliant on profile. I mean, let's be real. Some of the greatest footballers in the world, we're not the. Take out Ronaldo. Ronaldo is just an anomaly, and he's just an alien. But a lot of players is just when you look at the players, they're maybe not the fastest, they're not the shot, but they're just like watching Pirlo play.
Yeah, but also like under 9, he can't get around a pitch. So what? God knows what he's going to be like. You know, if he's that clever and that technical, he gets a chance. That's what frustrates me. They say, can't do off the ball. What are you worried about? What he does off the ball? He's so good on the ball. She's so good on the ball. What are you worried about? Give me to you. What's the worst thing that can happen? That's frustrating.
There's two things in scouting, right? There's recruitment at the time, and there's talent identification. I've spoken to you about it before. What are they going to look like in 4 or 5 years, right? So like Harry Kane at 10, he couldn't get around the pitch.
Yeah.
You know, Cole Palmer at 15, 14 wasn't the biggest. You know, there's a lot of players that are physically not adequate at that time. They might become the best players later. And I'll give a fantastic example. I don't want to say his name because he's on trial at one of the biggest clubs in the UK. So when he comes out, maybe would have come out by now. So one of the first boys we got signed at ELA, I took him on trial at Crystal Palace first, right? Yeah. So I took him on trial at Crystal Palace at first as an 8-year-old. Technically outstanding. I've never seen an 8-year-old do double round the worlds as an 8-year-old, right? Crystal Palace, like, he can't really move with the guy the head of pre-academy at the time, my friend. Which fair enough. He was signed at Charlton. He's walked out Charlton now, and he's on trial at a massive club. And hopefully he signs, and I'm sure he will.
So he walked out of Charlton and got released?
No, he walked out of Charlton. He walked out. No, he's when a player's got compensation on them, he's walked out. So he's got a lot of compensation on him. He's been there from under 8. Fantastic footballer, amazing footballer. Who I'm really sure he'll go all the way. But he's another one. He couldn't really get around the pitch at 8. But look at him now. He is flamboyant. He's skillful. He's grown into his body. You know, and whatever club lands him, they're a very lucky football club. You know what I mean? So it's I would say talent identification is so key in looking at a player. What's he going to turn like to be in a few years for sure?
I mean, we've done it too many players where we just, he's not quick enough. And you never know what the future holds for players.
Yeah.
Some kids genuinely understand football there. It's just a shame that the body doesn't correspond with the brain at that time, but they're still going to catch up.
You look at it as well, like, to be honest with you, when you do watch an under 8 game or under 9 game, who dominates the game? Who is it usually that dominates the game, you think?
Yeah, it's the
physical ones. You know, like the strongest kid at under 8 and under 9 is going to dominate the game. Doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be the best player at 12. You know, because at that age, that's what dominates the game.
That's the point, isn't it? Because particularly in this country and in America, athleticism is the main.
Athleticism is important. Let's not get away from that. Being an athlete is important.
Like, that's the main. And what they'll do is they'll have like a technician who can't run. They have an athlete who can't kick a ball, and they'll do what we're using. So we've got 10 years to work on this technique. And these ones get left behind, and that's the main thing. And if you go to like other countries, you know, of course they'll go right. Unbelievable brain, football brain. Don't care how he runs, just get him in there and try and work him, make him more dynamic, and try and stretch him. And that's probably the difference. You know, and that's where, you know.
I think I told one of the kids I was just saying to him, because we played a game a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't like the fact that he would waste his energy. He doesn't know how to reserve energy. And I'm like, that run was unnecessary, because someone else in that other position should have done it. So now you've done that, and now you're huffing and puffing back. See, you shouldn't have done it. I was saying to him, go watch Lamine Yamal, and he was laughing. I was like, watch the game against England and watch what he did. There were a few times he was reserving his energy. He knew when to dribble, when not to. It wasn't about his profile. It wasn't about his physicality. He just knew, okay, I'll take on a player now. You know, I'll pass it and I'll rest. I'll wait for a bit and I'll do it again. And I feel like a lot of times when I watch other coaches and stuff, I think we're just so focused on, like you said, can he run? Is he tall enough? And all of this little intricate stuff that we should maybe, some kids you can't teach them that. Maybe you just have to keep using it and incorporate it in your drills and stuff, and then get to do it in the future. But I just feel like those things we don't really touch on. But I guess it's down to, again, like I said, when you look at the academy system, they are bent on. We have loads of kids come in, so we don't mind. You can get rid of these ones.
It's just, it's performance v potential, isn't it? And that's the main thing. And especially finding the bigger clubs, they'll go more to the performance because they can. They'll try and prove the best. And listen, like you say, athleticism is important. Speed, and like I say to a player today, speed's one thing. Speed on the ball is the most, and speed on the ball is the biggest commodity in football. So you got to be able to run. You have to have 1%. They say, look, with those clever players, you maybe give them a bit more time because you don't know how they're going to end up. Like Max is a great example. They're not going to be dynamic and explosive. So, but then they say, they want the best players right now. They can afford to make those, and that's why a lot of the players come from smaller clubs and they come through after because they're a bit more potential and they take a bit longer to develop.
Even talking about things I'm not really happy about as well. It's the way we overhype talents. We don't give them time and room to actually grow into this amazing prediction we have. Like I know for 2 years now, I've known about what's his name, the Arsenal kid,
Max Darwin.
And now I'm like, oh, now the pressure is going to be on him. So if he doesn't have a good head on his shoulder, that's the end of it. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things as well. Like some other countries, like in Germany and Spain, they don't really, they know you're good. They will find a way and manage it to when it gets to a stage where, okay, guys, we can't hide it anymore now. Yeah, here he is. He's great.
Yeah, no, it's super hard though. Like, look at the players now. Like, at Cat One, they're all kind of on the same scholarship wage. But when you turn 17, you can go from like just under £1,000, which it is just under, to getting 7K a week for your first pro at 17 years old. Like, imagine how would you deal with that as a 17-year-old boy, getting from this much money to times by 100 in a month, and like, no, he'll get it. He'll get it at 17.
Yeah, but that's like Chelsea did a lot of good work in that area, and it's about preparing players for that. So Chibulu's a good friend of mine. Chibulu's like he's top. He works a lot with the mentoring players I used to. Now he's gone more into the more coaching emphasis. We do both anyway, but they talk to players. There's a big education program for players and coaches. I mean that's what the big clubs do. They do that really well because they say, right, for example, don't buy that Range Rover with your first car. Move up, buy something a bit more modest, be something that, and try and. And there's a lot of work that goes in, and Chelsea, Tottenham,
influence. It would influence in this modern day and age. You're 17 years old, 18, 19. You've like literally switched to getting so much attention, all the girl attention. Like but as a young man, like getting all that attention at once is hard. That's why you need to have a lot of self-discipline. It's I
know players, big players who come from working class environments who are big players now that they just travel around the world and fly on private jets all the time on such a big wage, and maybe their performance isn't reflecting it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But they got massive comfort lifestyle. They've made it. So
that's something we can't. I don't know. I don't think that's something we can teach. Even let's say for instance, one-to-one coaches. That's not something you can.
Yeah.
That's obviously not possibly the job. I mean, for me personally as a coach, I always find ways to incorporate real life stuff into that, just to help the kids discipline. Whether they listen or not, that's not the issue. The main thing is trying to find a balance in how you teach and coach. And so with you, what are the balance? What's the balance you bring into your coaching style? Like, what's the one thing you do outside the normal drills and the technical side of it? What else do you bring into it?
Yeah, I think it's like anything, you build a relationship with the player. And people talk about psychology and coaching. It's all psychology, isn't it? You're trying to challenge players, prepare players, talking to players. Subtle sometimes. Some players take it better than others. You could be a lot more direct when you build a relationship with players. You do that, but I think that's what you do because in our coach, you build that relationship. You're talking to the parents a lot, and you mentioned a great idea. You talked about clubs doing it. These young guys mostly when they make the right decisions, it's because of their parenting. They got good families. And talk about Noni Iffy's his dad. His dad who's now manages him. He's a real positive influence, and he's helped guide him and make those difficult decisions for him. And that's having those people in your life is key, and if you don't have that, then obviously maybe it's more difficult. But it's different. You just gotta you do what you can with players and talk to them, support them, and try. But at the end of the day, they got to make the decisions themselves, haven't they?
No, that's true. It's just I don't know. I have a different thought on not with the 1v1 and 1-to-1 coaching and stuff. It's just the idea of with developing players, and it's just on the football side.
No, listen, it's always about developing. You talk about human beings twice earlier. That's it. You've got to develop good human beings. Because if you're a good human being, you make better decisions. You're a better player. You're better. You're more coachable. So you do, and that's I've players who have, look at Michael Lise, who left Chelsea because he wasn't the academy struggled to deal with his unique personality. He's going to be one of the best players in the world. So it's difficult. So you got to support players, challenge them, and and try and make in there, but they've got to be right for the environment as well. So, but the point I'm trying to make is that when you're working academy coach or an individual coach, or with you guys, you always work on that human element. Trying to make characteristics positive. And I do a lot with the players I'm working with. So no, it's still about standards. For me, standards is high. If a player comes late and they're walking here and they're late, I say, "Why are you walking here? You're late. You should be running." It's disrespect to me, to you, your parents who are paying. Don't do that again. I expect to see that. So it's like having same you do with your child. You say you've got to put those standards and those things into them to try and encourage them to to make those right decisions. And that's the thing. If you don't have standards, you're sloppy, then you're going to have serious problems.
That is. Do you ever think, this would be a weird question, have you ever thought to yourself, I'm getting a bit now, I'm gonna pack this in, I'll stop this one-to-one coaching? Do you like see an end in sight?
Only a couple of times a day. I'll come back. No, I think listen, for me, I'm sort of transitioning into doing I'm doing more consultancy work. So
what's the next stages for Saul? I
am. So I already have a lot smaller portfolio of players. So and then do less.
Just elite?
Not let's see some aspiring elite players, mainly elite, some aspiring elite. But I'm doing more consultancy. So this season I've been working with Brighton and their academy with their coaches and their players. Did some stuff at Red Bull. I'm doing some stuff. Maybe doing some presentation at Villa. So I'm doing more of that stuff. That's where I'm heading more in, and then working on the online stuff as well, while still having that. I don't. That's the transition I'm making. So I'm supporting other people to come into the game, but obviously I'm sort of moving out of it.
And do you have people that are going to take over?
No, not really. I had PDA football. I had 15 coaches. COVID came and it just went boom because it was difficult to get staff. Everyone became a coach. So now I just focus on the online stuff with my personal football coach and my sort of portfolio. So my thing is, I'm talk about being the pioneer. I'm pioneer maybe one-to-one coaching. I'm now the pioneer in online learning as well. That's and also individual development, technical. So I'm going to hopefully do some stuff with Hong Kong FA, with Singapore FA. That's where I want to get to. Traveling around and supporting federations and clubs around the world in their individual program, because there's still a gap in that market.
Yeah, because it's so important to know when to pivot. It's so important, and the fact that you're always finding yourself pioneering or starting something and just being the guy at the forefront, that's so important, because that way you then know what standards you know what standards you're leaving for the rest or for the people in the industry. And for you as well, that's another way to sort of gauge or measure your importance, because you're a human being. Everyone, you need to believe in yourself, so you're not playing catch up. So that's really
good. I think I said to everybody, for me, talk about mentors. They're really important. My journey. I have football mentors, business mentors to help me. How can I be better in both those fields? And I set myself targets, short-term targets, long-term targets. Where do I want to be? I don't want to be up. I don't want to be at Shepherd's Bush Power League my whole life. No respect. You love the guys there, but there's my family, those people. But I'm moving. What's my next journey? So I've spent 20 odd years doing individual stuff. So my next step is doing the consultancy stuff. I'd love to be head of individual development at a club. Working throughout the club, that sort of thing, whether it's here or abroad, and then keep building my personal football coach basically.
And this consultancy stuff, this gig, is it free?
No. Nothing in life free. I do go to clubs sometimes and do a presentation free, but that normally leads to some sort of work, which I have to do. And some go there and share what I'm doing and that sort of thing.
That does make sense, because at the end of the day, I mean, you can only.
It's the same with anything. That's I look at. It's people who I really look up to, who are leaders in different parts of the game. We talked about Richard Allen. I said, bumped into him in St George's Park last year. I said, no, you're really inspiring me actually, because he works for FIFA, but he also has his own consultancy business. He's traveling around the world and everywhere and doing that, and that's the level that I want to get to.
That's true.
One of the best in the game is regarded, and he works with federations and that sort of thing. That's for me. That's my next goal. Can I try and action that and be that's. Create that sort of space for myself.
What has podcasting or content taught you about yourself?
I think it's been a massive influence on me in terms of I just enjoy talking to people about football, and I started off, remember the first ever one was with an Ajax coach, and I was obsessed with Ajax because the way they coached as a team, then as with the academy as well. And I just liked to talk about it, and I learned so much. So it taught me about developing myself, what people do in other cultures, other countries, really important. How can I do better? How can we do better? I go to some places, top academies, and I think actually we do better than them. It's not necessarily everything that's abroad is better. So it taught me about myself and having a self-improvement. Also, like I said, podcasts, is a skill and that's a challenge, and being able to do that, and you've been the first ones being really nervous and be that, and now being able to do it. So it's about self-development, isn't it? Self-improvement, challenging yourself, putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. And then, that's for me, that's how you, like you said about, I don't want to go stagnant, don't want to stand still, I want to progress and be the best version of me.
Yeah. And sorry, were you going to say something? Oh, yeah, I thought you were going to say so. Now, I was just, when you were saying that, I just thought something to myself. Actually, it's true. Whatever you do, consistency is actually the main thing, It's actually, you have to be consistent. Because you can be okay at something. And the more you do it, you just find yourself like, oh, wow, I'm the guy. I don't know if you have you over the years, you've definitely had that feeling or something.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's about turning up, isn't it? Whether you're a player, you're a coach, you got to have consistency. Turn up every day, getting better. I mean, the best advertising I have is word of mouth. So the best word of mouth. If you're good at what you do, people see that you're reliable. So I do sessions, you get there early, set up. Make sure you got equipment. I mean, if for me, it's like I work with top players, Premier League players. I've got Premier League balls. They're not going there with Sport Directs, goalie balls, whatever. I mean, you have to understand. Try and be the best version. Going to Chelsea taught me a lot. I remember because when you went there, they wanted to be the best academy in the world, and they had the world class mentality. They wanted to be world class, and everything was right. Is this world class? Planning, preparation, your delivery, and that taught me right. And I loved that. I really sort of thrived in that environment. They challenged you. And I love actually that's what you want to be. If you want to be one of the best, it's about standards and doing that and having that. So it's exhausting, it's tiring, but you got like I say, if you want to be there and amongst it and sit at the table, then you've got to do that.
And over the years, have you ever been in a situation where you had to listen to? Because the thing is, we live in a world where people struggle to listen to someone that they think is not qualified enough. And I can't remember because obviously I've got what's it called? I'm a psychologist, I would say. I've got a degree in psychology anyway. So for me, I've always thought to myself, how can I enjoy talking to people, random people. I'll be walking down the street and I'll see someone for the most random reason. We'll just start a conversation. I can start a conversation about the most smallest thing. I don't know much about golf, but I can have a decent conversation about it, And that's something that I've had to, over the years, like you said, about being nervous the first time you talk. And that's something that I've had to build up myself. So for you, what are those little things that you've had to build up over the years that's actually helped you as a person become the best version of you just coaching outside football?
I said the same. I used to have public speaking anxiety, serious, where I get so sweaty, get anxious. I couldn't, I'd be like panic attacks almost. So getting over that, I thought, I can do two things here. I can either confront it, or I can, bottle it and run away and avoiding it. And I see, so I confronted it, and I, challenged myself, and got to a position where I didn't actually, every opportunity, like I said, to do it, I'd do it because I really almost wanted that to get a bit better. So understanding that and challenging yourself, that's the other thing. Putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, so going, doing do you want to come and do a conference? There's 100 people there. It's a lot of people watching, but you have to. It's like a skill, like anything else. You get used to. I remember best man speech. When I was best man, that was a nightmare. I was so anxious. I've done it. I felt like $1 million, right? Then I could probably do it again because but it's just right. It's preparation, like everything.
Doing it.
Prepare. Fail to prepare to fail. It's the old adage. So I just make like any session, right? No matter how many people, if I planned. And my big thing about my session is about session design, how it flows. A big thing, I don't pick up many cones, one thing slides to the next, but everything's meticulously planned out. That's what I think. It doesn't work, but I anticipate what's coming, and then you can be adaptable. But that's planning and preparation, and I think that's really key. Do you know what I mean? Don't go in and wing it. Those things that you understand, what am I working for? I want to do it. And look, so sometimes doesn't always work. But you've got to be in a position where you can now adapt it, maybe pick up the cones a little bit, stretch the switch, maybe make it a bit smaller, bigger thing, or, and you just got that comes with experience, which is obviously the other big key.
That's true. So as you live your life as a human being and as a sports person, I would say, what's that one thing you want players to remember you for? Because a day is coming, you're even going to stop the consultancy. You're going to stop everything. What's that one thing you want people to remember you
Just
for?
that added value, really. You remember, you're a good coach. Did you add value? Did people take something away? you know, so it was my birthday the other day, and some really nice messages from big players. Thank you very much. It was big players. So I think, you know, it's genuine sort of, you know, actually made a connection with these guys and they see value in it, which is nice. Do you know what I mean? So I suppose that's the other.
That's so cool because, you know, sometimes with anything that involves money doesn't necessarily end up becoming like a relationship because it's all transactional, right? So it's interesting to know that the people you've worked with, or they say, "Hey, happy birthday, Saul," and stuff like that. It's
nice. It's nice. That's a human.
It makes you feel like
exactly.
That's amazing
because it's not just about transaction. It's not transactional things, which is that as well. It's about, you know, like say you're adding value to that person and supporting them and making them better players and better people.
It's interesting because I tried doing that with the lot we coach as well. I try remembering some birthdays because I feel like those things might not matter, but in the grand scheme of things, in the future, it's the way the brain works at random. You just be like, wait, my youth coach once said happy birthday. It's just random.
Chris Ramsey was a master at that.
Yeah.
You do a session, you know, build relationships straight away. You can go on tours and stuff like that. People didn't know. You'd just be able to, you know, remember, like we went to somewhere, we were abroad doing a tournament. He was playing like slaps. He was like these kids. Just picked them up. He said, "Hey, come on." I was like, "Is that, you know, is that appropriate, Chris?" I'm not sure, but like, we just, you know, these little kids, rough kids from the estate. He didn't. Oh yeah, he loved that. But he knew he was a master at that. Be able to like build a relationship. And then when you coached them, you know, you got them in their hands, sort of thing.
I know.
And it's,
that's absolutely true.
You know, it's got them like I say on that human level.
That's absolutely true. Do you Okay, this question you would understand this properly if you apply some sort of context to it from the angle I'm going to take. So, like Pep right now, the way the world is going in football, it seems to be Pep is a tree and we have loads of branches, right? So we've got like maybe 3 clubs now. Some of the coaches that are managing these clubs are from, of course, they would say they're from the Pep tree. For you, do you have any young coach or anyone that's going to go into coaching that could say, "Oh, I'm from the Saul tree"? You know, do you have people that are like your
I think so. I mean, I speak to a lot of these guys and they might not say it,
of course,
when they talk to them in podcasts in public, but they say Oscar, they'll talk to them, "I saw you're a big inspiration to me," like, and obviously because they want to build their own brand, you understand that. But yeah, a lot of these guys will say, "Oh, you know, thanks," like say they're pioneer, you're one of the people I took a lot from, and that's really nice. I'm really humbled by that, and I can do that. And you know, a lot of these guys, you can see the way, you know, because obviously, you know, the way when I started, you know, people were like, "What's he doing? Ball mastery 1v1, skill combos." Well, now it's a lot more people are doing it, and some people are doing it really well. And these young guys who've got big followings are doing it, you know, really, really well. And they, you know, do say that said, which is really nice, you could say. And so it's nice to think I've helped affect that, you know, in terms of, you know, the new generation of these top young coaches coming through.
Just say you're speaking to a parent now and they're looking for a one-to-one coach. What is it they should be looking for?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Like I said before, it's like, you know, it's difficult. 1v1 individual coaching is a skill.
Yeah.
You know, and most problem is not a problem, but a lot of people just do it. Oh, I'll do a bit of private on the extra, and you watch it, and they maybe don't know how to coach individually.
So if you've got a son, Saul, what is it you'd be looking to give your son to this coach? What is it?
Are they improving them?
Yeah.
Are they going to improve them technically? Are they going to make them better in the game? Are they going to? I'm going to come to you for 4 or 5 sessions, 10 sessions.
Yeah.
And then I see in the game they're getting better. That's the thing. And then they got to see it, you know. And there's all the other things, you know, how they structure the session. Is there good tempo? Is there good intensity? Is it you know, is there, you know, is that? So there's lots of things you can look for, and it's difficult, but you know, that's, you know, there's the sorts of things you want to be looking for, basically.
So you're never, because I know a lot of people are against one-to-ones. So you're like a massive advocate, not just because you do it.
I've been doing 20 years.
Yeah, no, not just because that's what I'm saying on purpose. Not just because you do it.
If I didn't,
definitely.
Would you like?
Yeah, listen,
outside.
Yeah, I said everyone. It's like everyone can benefit from it.
Yeah,
and there's good practitioners, there's bad practitioners, but same as like, you know, group training, like what you guys do, team training. You guys do a really great job. Sometimes you bang average job. So you got to find the good people. It's so valuable. Like just like say like whether you're a top player or a beginner, spending time individually on the ball. You know. What that looks like and how effective it is, that's the big question, isn't it? And like I said, because there's so many people out there, it's difficult for a parent to say, "Oh, I don't know," you know. And even I see, you know, parent, like I go to Shepherd's Bush a lot to play, and you know, and there'd be the old days, there'd be in other centres, it'd be like just me. Now it's like 5 or 6 individual coaches.
Yeah.
Some really good guys doing it. I mentioned Zaid before earlier. I see him. I rate that guy. He's a good young coach there. But there's some coaches that you think, what are they doing? You know, really, I can't see the value. But then people look at me and say, what's he doing? You know, so everyone sees the game differently. And the proof's in the pudding. Other players getting better.
Obviously we're coming to the end of the pod. I just wanted to ask general questions now because what team do you support?
Arsenal. Grew up in North London, But listen, when I grew up, like I said, I was obsessed with Ajax as well. And I grew up in Kentish Town, Chalk Farm. Half my friends are Tottenham fans, half my friends are Arsenal fans. I used to go to both games every week. But I went to Arsenal more, and then I started really focusing on Arsenal, that sort of thing. But it's difficult because I worked at Tottenham for 10 years. So it becomes less didn't de-gooner me or anything.
Yeah.
You become less of a, when you work for a club, you become less of a fan and more of
100%.
because you want the teams to do well. You want the players to come. You want the first team to do well. You want players to come through. So it changed your perspective a bit. So I used to be a season ticket holder, and I stopped that because of my career. But then you want actually, so you do see it.
I try to explain that to my brother all the time. For example, like a club that I'm working with, I support them over Arsenal, for example, in that game.
Yeah.
And he was like, "How does that benefit you if they beat Arsenal?" If I was working at Palace, I was like, "If Palace get to the Europa League, I can speak to some players that I'm trying to get that might pick Tottenham over us. I'm like, look, we've got this development program and we've hit the Europa League and they're doing well. They're like, how's that going to benefit you? Some parents will buy into that." So literally the club you're working for, you want them to do better because it helps you. And I have that convo with my brother all the time. He's like, "No, you're a fake Arsenal supporter."
I have that case all the time. Even I suppose, no, you can work for Tottenham.
Yeah.
I'm mad. I'm working in football. It's the dream.
Yeah, that's it. It is. I'm working in the field.
I say to everyone, football fans are tribal. They're lunatics. I think there's no rationale, is there? But working academy football is very tribal as well. You want the teams to do well. Sonny, we want to nick their players. They want to nick our players.
Man. And
that's why you want the teams to do well. It's sort of like who's got the teams in the first team. That's the thing. So it's very competitive. You want that. So you're right. We want to be the best academy in town, isn't it?
100%.
And that's right. Who's developing the most players? Who's getting the best talent? So you do that. So that becomes really tribal as well. And that almost overtakes it because you want your team, your academy to do the best.
So this competition shows, or should I say, reared its head in your industry, the one-to-one industry, where someone or a client of yours, another coach, is trying to poach that guy for them to come trade.
Listen, that happens. You lose clients, they go somewhere else. That's fair. Like some people prefer other places. I've lost a couple of clients to people, and I thought actually I wasn't really actually enjoying those sessions anyway.
Yeah.
But then I lost sometimes actually I do enjoy. But that's maybe I lost my mojo with players who are maybe not elite players, so maybe can do other things. But listen, it happens. It's competitive. There's a community of us. We said it before. It's like but it's healthy competition. These are my colleagues. I want to see them doing well. I want to see them getting jobs at academies. I want them get other players. You'll get a top pro, and I think, I'd love to have that pro. But I'm proud of you. I'm happy for you. Because we're all like this, we're all in it together, basically. Do you know what I mean? You can't, you got Adidas and Nike and Puma. No one has everything. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So you just got, and I think, especially for me and in my position, as one of the, the elders in the game, I want to support these people into doing it. Do you know what I mean? So I'm always like, I'm giving them advice. I feel like, don't come to me and go and see him. He's available, that sort of thing. So I'm always trying to push people. Listen, some people I don't like. Trust me, you know what I mean? I can loads of invest like any industry, but especially these young guys coming up, who are making big moves in there. I've got nothing but respect for these guys and love seeing what they're doing and their content and stuff.
It's good to hear that because, especially in the grassroots football world, it's very different. It's very competitive, very, very. If you're on the Instagram, you would see it. You would probably have a player that's playing for you. Maybe get signed to another club, and this player's played just one game with this club. Now they would post it up like they facilitate. I'm like,
don't get me started with that.
But that's the game, isn't it?
Don't get me started with that, boy. Oh my God.
That's why I asked that question because I always like to hear almost similar troubles that let's say for instance, when I had an hyper, I like to know from you don't feel the same thing too. Yeah. It's just good to hear that it's that way because in the grassroots system it's probably maybe even very different because everything is hypersensitive, like so competitive. Like you go to a game, a grassroots game, I don't know, you're playing just a normal league game, and the coach is like, "Oh, you used to play for." You didn't ask this coach, by the way. "Oh, that's my guy. Come on," you're like, the kid just wants to focus and play football.
Yeah.
And it's just like, "Oh, I know you're having a trial at this club. This is not the time for this." Yeah. You know what I mean? But you don't want to step in and make it into like a massive thing when it's not. So that's why I was just asking that. It was just interesting to know if
it's like a lot of my clients have had a long time who've been really friendly and they've taken their kids to somewhere else. And I'm like, "Oh, that's a bit," and you also build a bond with these parents. And you're like, "Oh, that's like a dagger through the heart. How could you?" But then you think, actually, fair enough. Maybe they're better fits, and you've got to beat that. It's okay. And that's ego thing. You got to get over the ego, anything. You know what I mean? Because actually, maybe I wasn't a good fit for that one. I wasn't that. I
think some people just always think the grass is green on the other side. Sometimes, no matter how good you can be, they might think that.
You've worked with elite players. What's your take on kids trying to develop to be loyal to a club? What's your take on it?
It's difficult, isn't it? It's like players in academies or players in pro football, isn't it? You know, when are they loyal? They're loyal when they want to get rid of you anyway. But I mean, you got to be, you know, you got to respect where you come from. That's a big thing, isn't it? You got to respect each other. That's why people ask me about, you know, where I'm developing. I talk about, let's say, Keith Boanas, Steve, you know, Tim Bradbury, Danny Butt, Chris Ramsey. These people, I wouldn't be where I am. You've got to respect where you come from and give people, you know, props or roses, whatever you say it, flowers, whatever. Like, you've got to do that, and that's the thing. And it is a bit, you know, I say, you know, disrespectful if you don't. And they do. Right? If you've been at a club and they've developed, they've given you opportunities, and then they're gone, and it is, you know, it's not really good.
Because I had this conversation with a parent a long time ago anyway, and we were talking about, and I was saying, for me personally, for a kid to grow at this age, between the 10 to 14, I think, you need to teach the kid loyalty, right? And just being able to play in a club. If it works, of course, do it. If the club is not doing something for you, of course, you have to leave. You know, at the end of the day, you're not tied to a club, you're paying for this. Well, I think at this age, you should teach the boy or the girl the idea of something called loyalty. Like, just being loyal to a club is really, really helpful. It helps with the development as well. It helps with
personality, character. But I mean, like as Sam said, you know, the grass is always greener, isn't it? Something better over the side. Maybe people making them promises or promising them, you know, whatever. You know, it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah. Just always.
Well, we can talk about the app. Let's talk about the app for a little bit, shall we?
Oh yeah, I don't mind. Let's go for it because I'm going to download it. Actually,
I'm going to download it too.
Good.
I'm going to get my net
to get better.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So what's it called? My Football Coach.
My Personal Football Coach.
My Personal
Football Coach. One word or in several words. Type it in. It's free to download.
All ELA players jump on this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Got the best one-to-one coach here.
Also, I mean, this is probably the first. This is an exclusive for you.
Go on.
Right here in the ELA podcast. So I've got a new course I've just released.
Wicked.
And it's a one-to-one trainers course for one-to-one trainers. So how to coach, the methodology, how to build sessions, how to develop business, how to develop social media.
So this is for guys that want to be one-to-one
coaches. These are one-to-one coaches.
Right, wicked.
So it's a brand new course, and put it in the description as well. So because that's the other thing as well. There's nothing out there for coaches. Nothing. No federation prepares you. So this is a course you can say, right, if you're starting off, or even your experience, how to coach one-to-one, how to, you know, get Premier League standard, how to be a top coach. And I say, break it down, the methodology, break down your sessions, how to build sessions. And also then I speak to also some of the best one-to-one coaches I rate as well, and getting their feedback and how they started in their business development. And also then give that sort of level 1 accreditation as well. And also there's like a session library as well. It's got sessions with Premier League players, grassroots players, beginners. That's it. My Personal Football Coach. So yes, there's a session library. So it's a one-stop shop if you want to be a one-to-one coach, or you want to.
So how do I get onto that?
You go to best place to go is mypersonalfootballcoach.com.
It's on the app. Oh,
go to the website. Go to the website. It's better. The website. Go to mypersonalfootballcoach.com.
Yeah.
Go to the coach section. You see the new one-to-one trainers course. It's there in there. You can follow the link.
That's for the players.
This is so basically, so on the app, once you purchase the course on the website, the coaching course that appears on your app. At the moment, it's not on the app because they take 30%, and I'm not happy. I'm laughing, yeah. So that you can purchase all the player courses you can purchase on the app, and they're there. But this new course at the moment, you purchase it on the website, and you can access it on the website or the app once you purchase it. But yeah,
we'll put all the link in the bio.
Put the link. Yeah. But I mean, that's for me. That was, you know, I'm talking about developing and getting better. There's nothing out there for coaches. You know, young coaches who want to, you know, how to structure a one-to-one session, you know, in terms of way to get players better, you know, in terms of and there's a methodology behind it as well, you know, and all those things around it. My methodology, and like I say, it's been proven, and clubs, some of the best academies in the country use it. So it's easy to access, you know, in terms of you want to be a better coach, you want to develop a business, you develop your socials, and that's amazing.
So this app taught you how to develop the socials, develop the business.
Yes, like I said,
session plans.
Yeah, so I give my feedback about, you know, how I develop business, my social media background. Also, I speak to lots of, there's about 10 interviews of other top coaches over there how they've developed and how they did the methodology, how they do the social media. Good. But the key thing is, you know, this is how you coach, this is how you structure a session, this is a methodology, this is how you do your warm-ups, your skill combinations, 1v1 skill library, the methodology behind. So it's easy to structure it, then you get the advice. You
got to be hungry to learn if you become better in your field.
It's like anything, you know.
Like some guys have a bit of ego sometimes, but you're never too good or never too old to learn. You know, so if you want to learn from the best, you know,
and also
get on this.
Parents out there, if you want to support your kid, My Personal Football Coach, download the app. There's courses on there, easy to do at home with your kids, your son and your daughter as well.
Just a bit of grass, cones, football.
Not even that, in the living room, in the garage, whatever. Just a bit of front, it's easy to ball mastery and.
There's an app I've had for over 8 years now. It's called Mojo.
Right.
it's decent, but I think Saul's one is the new one now. That's the one that's
gonna take over.
That's
exactly.
I mean, I love the interface as well.
Yeah, and also you got to remember this is like, say Arsenal have used it.
Wow.
Middlesbrough, Wolves, some of the best academies here, and that philosophy as well. Now I'm going to consult all around the world, do the top academies around the world. This is the philosophy I'm talking about. So if you're a player, a coach, you're a club, you want to use it. This is that's this the proven USP. Do you know what I mean? That's the difference. I always say, everyone's a coach, or there's millions of apps out there, but is it a proven USP? Has it been proven at the highest level and endorsed by these top clubs in terms they've used it they've trusted me and to use it with their players.
Yeah.
But this is this is really important because with a podcast, word of mouth is even easier. And you know what I mean? You've got clips you put on social media. You don't have to travel somewhere far.
For sure.
Oh, guys, look at my app and all of this.
People can access it all over the world, Yeah.
That's what's the thing about, it's the biggest market.
100%.
And it's, so many thousands and hundreds of thousands of players, millions of players around the world. So,
I don't think we have many of that in Dubai. So we obviously got a club in Dubai as well. So I don't think they've got any apps like that in Dubai. So definitely get it out there as well.
Well,
for sure.
It's like I say as well, in terms of, you guys do really good stuff with the team training, but if you want to do the individual stuff, you don't have access to a good coach, you can just do that in the app. And that's the whole point of it. You download it, you do it, easy. Free, right? There's a freemium model, but then the courses obviously you pay for it. It's like 40 quid or something. It's lifetime access, and there's specific stuff. It's it's easy, it's free. And then the virtual academy, which is some of the best developers in world football. So you've got mental, like mindset stuff, tactical, physical, scouting tips, technical as well from coaches around the world. That's $9.99 a month. If you download the app, you get it for free. For 3 days, you can try it, and if you don't like it, you can get rid of it.
Do you have like a trial period?
You get a 3 day free trial. 3 day free trial. We can try it.
Why not?
Is that
lads? Come on, why not? 3 day free trial.
Come on,
man.
Do
it's
it.
like you buying a shirt. You wear it to the party, take it off.
Well, funny because the virtual academy I started actually for players. Excuse me, but a lot of coaches use it.
Okay.
To upskill themselves as well. So.
Of course, naturally.
Yeah.
For me, when I'm at home sitting down and I'm just there, I'm watching. Even though I can edit, I'm watching more editing videos. And the manager was like, "Yo, are you gonna watch anything else?" I'm like, "Hey,
that's what you signed up for, love."
Gotta always learn. Learn. Do you know what I mean? And because I don't know, in the past they used to do this game called Football Manager.
Iconic.
I mean, Football Manager should pay me, man. Yeah, I mean, everyone in the household knew that was the one game. That was the only game I ever played. Consoles, I gave it up after a while. So this was like from secondary, college, uni. Yep, Football Manager. So obviously I haven't played that in a while, but it's just when something is valuable to you. Do you know what I mean? Like I hope this app. I don't hope so. I know this app. It's one of those things just just peruse your. This is the thing. I love finding new things. That was just like a child. Honestly, so hopefully, coaches, if you're watching this, and parents, parents, let's do it because you can actually be your personal, personal coach.
That's it. You get to monitor it.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So it's always interesting. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Last couple of minutes, man. Just some quick fire questions. Best player you coached?
I can never say a best player. There's so many. There's so in academy football.
Yeah.
Not 1-to-1s. Academy. Jamal Musiala was a top player.
Top.
Top. Let's tell us loads of those players. Yeah. Individual train loads. Noni's top. The session with Foden, he's top, obviously. Do you know what I mean? Flo Balogun, unbelievable striker.
Wow.
Those players. There's so many players, and some players didn't actually, maybe make it. But there's lots of top players.
Best game you coached?
Best game. My most fun was when I first started at Tottenham and we used to play Arsenal under 9s. Excuse me, on the 8s. Yeah. It was a proper North London scrap.
Yeah, no way.
And I was like, this is great banter. I loved it. We didn't there was a real animosity between the academies at that time. It was good. It was great, and I buzzed off it. It was superb. But first session I ever did, I took the 9s. At Tottenham at Hale End, and it was great. It was just wow. This is a buzz, man. It's great fun.
And just carry that on until
that
age. Amazing. Who's the worst? Not worst. Sorry.
Worst player.
No, you can't do that one.
Got a couple here.
Right. Who was the best player you've ever coached and never made it?
That's not a bad one. So
Not sure, really. Difficult to say. I mean, I think some players come later. So like Ben Elliott now, who's is making it, but in the academy is the best 9, 10, 11 everyone I've ever seen. So he's still going, and his journey's taking a bit longer, but he's still going to be a top player. But there's those players who got injured, maybe didn't make it. Got some unbelievable footballers, but it's difficult to, so many players just fall out of the game, get an injury, and it's so difficult. So you get players who are unbelievable. 9, 10, you get players who are like the best in Europe at 9, 10, 11.
Yeah, for sure.
And they don't make it.
Yeah.
And there's some players who are like Rio, coach like Chelsea, best, 9 to 11 best in Europe. Now he's kicking on, he's gone to Liverpool, those sort of players. So it's difficult. Everyone's journey is different. It's difficult to judge that.
One team right now in the football world you're about to coach.
One team?
Just one team.
I'm not,
the players are like,
what, the first team you mean?
The first team, right?
No, I'm not sure. Just about any of the big teams, really. Arsenal, all those good top players in there. Do you know what I mean? It's like United, it's still a massive club. Love to. I said I'm still on my bucket list to be head of individual development, working across. I'd love to do that, going to work across the academy and then the first team. I still love to do that at a big club, and because that'd be a real doing that day to day, and and then maybe that first team stuff as well. It's not as a skills individual specialist. So that's still on my bucket list.
Stop, man.
Thank you very much.
So, what a legend.
Lovely. Cheers.
What an absolute fantastic podcast.
Thank you very much.
Some special nuggets on that one, man. Wow, man. Thanks for that. My belly's still full from that,
And please don't forget to download the app. It's
My Personal Football Coach. And remember, if you're a one-to-one coach, mypersonalfootballcoach.com, check out the new course. It's going to change your game, change your life, your coaching life.
You know what I mean? But guys, until next time again.
Peace out.